Chapter 2295. This way, the second and third protectors, as well as Old 12, would definitely rush back to Taggin House. There was no way they would look for Lin E anymore, and La Z would be able to escape as well. Otherwise, if they left people to search the area and La Z was caught, he'd probably lose his head if they found out that he was the one who lured Lin E here. What? Taggin Dragon is injured? The second protector was shocked after hearing La Z's words. We'll go back immediately. All right. La Z hung up the phone and headed straight for the border town. He had to escape through the night. As for luggage, he didn't need it. He had an account in a Swiss bank, and as long as he had money, everything would be fine. When the second protector answered the phone, the third protector and Old 12 were listening on the side. When they heard that Taggin Dragon was injured by Zhang Nai Peo, their faces darkened. This Zhang Nai Peo, he's trying to lure us away. The third protector said hatefully, we all thought that he was going to escape, so we searched the streets for him, but we didn't expect him to come back to Taggin House and injure Taggin Dragon. This kid really dared to do it. Old 12 frowned, but I know Taggin Dragon's strength. That Zhang Nai Peo is only an Earth class mid-phase, and Taggin Dragon should be on par with him. How'd he get injured? Who knows? Also, how did Zhang Nai Peo know where Taggin House is, and how did he find Taggin Dragon? The second protector was confused as well. Let's not care about this. Let's go back and take a look. Old 12 was worried about Taggin Dragon's safety. Although this person was a disciple of Taggin House, Old 12 was even more worried about him because that place, which was his sect, had high hopes for Taggin Dragon. If anything happened to Taggin Dragon, it would affect the entire plan. At this time, Lin Yi had already left for a long time. With Lin Yi's speed, even if Old 12 and the second and third protectors rushed back, they wouldn't be able to meet him. At this moment, Lin Yi had already left Rui Lei to town with the Skybowl pig, using the river to go back to the border town. In the Taggin family's manner, 12th brother saw the Taggin Dragon in Taggin Gon's arms and took it. He placed his hand on Taggin Dragon's pulse and immediately frowned. The pulse was chaotic, the chi was chaotic, and many meridians were broken. In such a situation, ordinary minor reversion pills and meridian unblocking pills were no longer of any use. The pills that Old 12 had on him could no longer save Taggin Long. His face turned very ugly as he hated Nai Peo to the core. Where did this bastard come from? He had actually played the trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain, running back to the Taggin family, and injuring the Taggin Dragon. It would have been fine if he had injured someone else, but the key was the Taggin Dragon. What's going on? Old 12 asked with a gloomy face. I don't know either. Taggin was a little embarrassed. He really couldn't answer Old 12's question. When he came here, Taggin Long had already been injured by Lin Yi, and the murderer had run away. He didn't even see the murderer's appearance. While I was in seclusion, I felt a strong wave of vital energy. It seemed like someone was fighting inside the Taggin Long family. After I confirmed it, I ran out, but I was still a step too late. I'll inform 6 senior brother to bring Taggin Long back to the sect immediately. If there's any delay, I'm afraid it might be too late. 12 didn't get an answer, and he didn't want to keep asking. Even if he knew why Nai Peo was here, it didn't matter anymore. The most important thing right now was how to heal the Taggin Dragon. With that said, Old 12 took out a piece of paper and wrote down the situation here. He then tied it to the spirit beast's leg and let it fly out. After doing all this, Old 12 used his hand to hold the Taggin Dragon's pulse and channeled some essential chi into it, temporarily keeping the Taggin Dragon alive. Fortunately, Taggin Dragon's physique was rather special. Old 12 was also his martial uncle, and the mental cultivation method he cultivated was also one of Taggin Dragon's. Therefore, Taggin Dragon's body did not reject essential chi. However, Old 12's essential chi did not have the effect of healing and could only maintain his life. 6 had been looking for Sun Jingyi on the mountain, and he didn't expect to get another one right after receiving a report from a flying spirit beast. Could it be that Sun Jingyi had come down as well? After taking a look at the note on the spirit bird's leg, Old 6's expression instantly became extremely unpleasant. Taggin Dragon was injured. Zhang Nai Peo didn't run after coming down the mountain, but went inside the Tagan family and injured Tagadragon? Six was dazed as he read the contents of the note. How is this possible? This Zhang Naipeo was too bold, wasn't he? Zhang Naipeo, if anything happens to Tagandragon, Master will definitely wipe out your entire family. Six said hatefully. He didn't care about looking for Sun Jingyi anymore, and flew down the mountain as fast as he could, heading toward the Tagan family. In the Tagan family, when the sixth brother saw the Tagan dragon beside the 12th brother, he was a little shocked. Just from looking at the injuries with the naked eye, it was already very serious. It was more serious than he had imagined. Sixth brother, you're back. Let's go back to the sect immediately and bring Tagan Dragon to see Master. His injury is very serious, and only Master might have a way. 12 said quickly after seeing Six. All right. Six nodded, but he was a little hesitant. Are we not going to look for that treasure in Zhang Naipeo and the others? These don't seem to be as important as Tagan Dragon. If something happens to Tagan Dragon and ruin Master's plan, then you and I will be sinners. 12 said, that's true. Then let's go back tonight. 6 said, Tagangan and Tagango didn't want old 6 and old 12 to leave. If they left, the strength of the Tagangan family would plummet. Now that the Great Protector was dead, if old 6 and old 12 also left, then the most powerful person in the Tagangan family would be old Ancestor Tagangan. He couldn't cultivate in seclusion anymore and could only come out to oversee the family. This was not what he wanted, but they also knew that they couldn't stop them, and they were more worried about Tagan Dragon's injury. So, Tagan Gao said decisively, Men, prepare a car and send Mr. 6 and Mr. 12 away. No need. A car is too slow. 6 waved his hand. He and 12 were both Sky-class masters, and going at full speed was much faster than a car. They could also take shortcuts, and they didn't have to use the road. Chapter 2296. All right, don't be sad. To that place, longer is more important than our family. They will definitely think of a way. Tagangan said comfortingly, Today's matter ends here. Don't mention it to anyone else. Just say that Tagon Long is facing the wall and reflecting on his mistakes because of the fire lion. Yes, father. Tagango thought about it. That was indeed the case. Looking at old 6 and old 12's anxious looks, it was obvious that they were more concerned about Tagon Long's safety. By the way, where did that guy go? Why isn't he back yet? Tagangan suddenly thought of Razi. Didn't this guy go to find old 12 and the others? Why hasn't Lotzi come back when 12th brother is back? Yeah, Lazi should know more than us. What about this kid? Tagango was also stunned. He turned to look at the second and third protectors and asked, Did Lazio not come back with you? Lotzi? No, Lotzi just called to tell us that Tagon Long was injured by Naipeo. Isn't he at home? The second guard said curiously. What? Call him. Isn't there no signal in the Wulong Heo Mountains? Tagan heard this and immediately felt that something was amiss. Wulong Hao Mountains? We weren't in Wulin Hate Mountains. Zhang Naipeo left the mountains earlier, and me, third, and Mr. 12 were chasing him, so we were able to get through. The second guard frowned. Not good. Call Razi immediately and ask him where he is. Tagango felt that something was wrong. All right. The second guardian quickly picked up the phone and dialed Lotzi's number, but there was a notification that the phone was turned off. The second guardian's expression suddenly changed. It switched off. There's definitely something wrong with this guy. Tagan Gon's face changed as well. He hadn't seen the enemy before, but Lazi had, and knew that it was Naipeo's doing. If this guy was innocent, then why would Lin let him live? Or rather, Razi had long discovered that Lin, E, and Tagan Dragon were fighting. Why didn't he warn his family beforehand? Investigate. Find Shiratzi's 18 generations of ancestors and bring him back. Tagan Gao's expression wasn't good either. He was in charge of the Tagan family's affairs. He was the patriarch of the Tagan family. Although he didn't have the authority to speak on the Tagan Dragon's cultivation and other important matters, he was still in charge of these businesses. Shiraz was also considered to be working for him. How could he not be angry when there was a problem? However, since Shiraz dared to leave, he was naturally not afraid of being investigated. His identity was fake, including the name Shiraz, which he casually came up with while reading a web novel. No matter how powerful the Tagan family was in Rielita town, Shiraz had escaped to the border town. The Tagan family couldn't do anything to him once he left Rielita town. Although Lin Yi's injuries weren't particularly serious, they weren't light either. The Tagan dragon's martial technique was really powerful, beyond Lin Yi's imagination. After arriving at the border town, Lin Yi quickly returned to the inn he had stayed at. This was the place he had agreed to meet Sun Jingyi. Meanwhile, Lin Yi dialed Sun Jingyi's number at the entrance of the inn. Lin Yi. Sun Jingyi quickly picked up the phone. She was pleasantly surprised. She had been worried about Lin Yi's situation, but she didn't dare to call casually for fear of affecting Lin Yi. Therefore, after she returned to the inn, she was on tenterhooks every day and couldn't sleep well at night. "It's me. I'm back at the border town. Where are you?" Lin Yi asked. "I'm at the inn we agreed on previously. Room 302. What about you?" Sun Jingyi heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that Lin Yi was fine. "I'm near the inn. I'll head up right away." Lin Yi didn't say much and hung up the phone. After entering the inn, Lin Yi told the innkeeper the room number and went upstairs. He came to the door of room 302 and knocked on it. "Who is it?" Although Sun Jingyi knew that it might be Lin Yi, she still asked very carefully. After all, she wasn't a cultivator. She had to be cautious when someone knocked on the door in the middle of the night. "It's me," Lin Yi said. Sun Jingyi quickly opened the door and saw Lin Yi's pale face. Although Lin Yi looked normal on the surface, Sun Jingyi could feel that Lin Yi should be very weak. "Are you hurt?" "And I'm hurt. I need to heal." Lin Yi nodded. Sun Jingyi let Lin Yi enter the room and locked the door. Then she said, "Do you need me to do anything? Just give me a wet towel to wipe my face." As Lin Yi said this, he sat cross-legged on the bed and began to use the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to heal himself. A huge amount of qi flowed continuously from the space in the jade into Lin Yi's meridians, healing Lin Yi's injured body. Lin Yi suddenly felt relaxed, but his heart was filled with shock and fear. Fortunately, Tagan Long was only an Earth-class early-stage master. If his strength was a little higher, the one who would be seriously injured today would probably be him. Although he had the intention to escape and should be able to escape in the end, it would definitely not be so easy. Sun Jingyi went to the bathroom to get a towel, wet it, and came back to pass it to Lin Yi. However, she saw that Lin Yi was already sitting cross-legged on the bed and began to heal, so she didn't disturb Lin Yi. Instead, she personally took the towel and wiped his face. Looking at Lin Yi's pale face, Sun Jingyi felt a strange feeling in her heart. Gratitude? Or guilt? Or something else? From Sun Jingyi's point of view, Lin Yi must have been injured so badly because of her. She used the 1,000 silk mask and successfully evaded the Tagan family's investigation. But Lin Yi had to force his way down. The Tagan family was full of experts, and Lin Yi was able to escape unscathed. Although it was a blessing in misfortune, Sun Jingyi still felt that she had let Lin Yi down. In the beginning, saying that Lin Yi was her lover was more or less using Lin Yi. However, after the two became familiar and closer, this lover became a joke. Now, Sun Jingyi had the urge to really become Lin Yi's lover, a man who could do so much for her, even if it was from a friend's point of view, made Sun Jingyi very touched. No one had ever done this much for Sun Jingyi since she was a kid. Chapter 2297. Unfortunately, Sun Jingyi couldn't have him completely. Not to mention Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao, even Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Ling Shan weren't people that Sun Jingyi could chase away. So, Sun Jingyi was troubled when she thought about it. Lin Yi saw Sun Jingyi walk over. He wanted to take the towel himself, but he didn't think that Sun Jingyi would actually help him wipe his face. This surprised Lin Yi, but he still enjoyed it silently. After all, Lin Yi was healing right now, and he didn't want to stop halfway. After wiping Lin Yi's face carefully, Sun Jingyi helped Lin Yi wipe his hands. Then, she put down the towel and sat not far from Lin Yi. She waited quietly for Lin Yi, looking at Lin Yi, waiting for him to finish healing. Skybolt Pig laid quietly on the side and quickly fell asleep. He knew that Lin Yi's injuries weren't serious this time, and he didn't need to do anything. He was tired, so naturally he slept first. House Tagan's attention was on Lotzi. As for Lin Yi, this Zhang Nai Peo, they didn't look for him, and they didn't dare to look for him. Who knew if Lin Yi had met up with that crazy Sky-class old man? The main guard was killed by them, and Tagangon didn't have the confidence to take care of Lin Yi. He could only give up, but even if he didn't want to give up, he couldn't leave Ruillita town and go to the border town. So, Lin Yi was very safe here, and he spent the night peacefully. On the second day, when the sun shone in the sky, Lin Yi opened his eyes. Sun Jingyi, who had been waiting on the side, was immediately happy. Lin Yi, are you all right? Well, I'm fine. Thank you for staying with me the whole night. Lin Yi was healing himself, but he could see everything that was going on outside of his body. Jingyi had been watching him the whole time after wiping his face and hands, and Lin Yi was a little touched by this. You know everything? Sun Jingyi suddenly blushed. She didn't expect her behavior to be discovered by Lin Yi. She just wanted to watch Lin Yi silently. How far could she go with Lin Yi? Sun Jingyi didn't think about it, but now that Lin Yi said it out loud, she felt a little embarrassed. Take a nap. I reckon you haven't been sleeping well these days. If it weren't for the fact that you're a cultivator, you would probably have dark circles under your eyes. Lin Yi didn't continue this topic. He could more or less guess Sun Jingyi's thoughts, but for this kind of thing, Lin Yi wanted to let nature take its course and not deliberately force anything. Well, then I'm going to sleep. Sun Jingyi was a little embarrassed, and Lin Yi mentioned it again. She really felt a little sleepy, so she nodded and fell in the opposite bed. I'm going to sleep. Wake me up when it's time to eat. By the way, the 1,000 silk mask and the inescapable net are in my bag. You can take them back. After returning to the border town and separating from Ah Biao and the rest, Sun Jingyi returned to her original appearance. Go to sleep. Lin Yi relaxed. There were a lot of things to sort out, such as the harvest from the Wulong Haut mountain range and the strange martial arts of Tag and Dragon. There were a lot of things that he had to ask Jiao Lao. Sun Jingyi was really sleepy, so she fell asleep after falling on the bed for a while. Meanwhile, Lin Yi began to sort out the harvest from this trip to the Wulong Haut mountain range. An inexplicable white energy stone, 2 spirit chi inner elixirs of spirit beasts, the remaining 2 inescapable net, a secret manual on the refining method of the spirit chi necklace, and 1,000 silk mask. Unfortunately, he had used up 3 Firestream God bombs and wasted one of the inescapable net. However, the remaining things were still quite a bountiful harvest. Picking up the secret manual on the refining method of the spirit chi necklace, Lin Yi couldn't wait to flip through it. This secret manual was stolen from the Tagan family by Lin Yi at the risk of his life. It was also one of the things that Lin Yi was most interested in. The Tagan family was an ordinary and small family that was full of mysteries. Not only did they have an outstanding younger generation like Tagan Long, but they also had experts like the Great Guardian, 6th brother, and 12th brother. What surprised Lin Yi the most was that they actually knew the use of the Spirit Beast Inner Elixir. This thing was something that Jiao Lao, Faubert, and even the Thunder Pig and the Purple Electro Tempest Beast didn't know. Yet they actually knew and even knew the refining method of the Spirit Chi Inner Elixir. This was simply unbelievable to Lin Yi. Wasn't the Tagan family's foundation a little too solid? No wonder the people behind them could annihilate an ancient sect like Faubert. Even if Faubert's sect was a second-rate or third-rate ancient sect, to be able to annihilate it so easily was not something that an ordinary sect could do. Shaking his head, Lin Yi put these thoughts aside for the time being. He took out the book on how to make a profound chi necklace and carefully flipped through it. This was what Lin Yi felt was the biggest gain from this trip. If he could make a profound chi necklace, it would definitely be a top-notch treasure. Condensing method of essence chi necklace. These 8 big characters leaped into Lin Yi's eyes. This was a photocopy of a thread-bound secret book. Originally, it was handwritten, but the Tagan clan's book collection was a photocopy. Now that technology was advanced, people didn't need a copy anymore. These clans and sects also used this more convenient method to copy the secret book. The basic requirement for condensation: blacksmith. Blacksmith? Lin furrowed his brows. This thing required a blacksmith to condense. Before he could continue reading, the basic requirement on the first page gave Lin a headache. A blacksmith must have the 3 attributes of metal, wood, and fire. Lin thought about his own situation. He couldn't even be an alchemist, let alone a blacksmith who had the metal attribute. What a headache. Originally, he thought that he had gotten a good thing, but he found out that it was impossible to realize. However, this also indirectly proved one point. This Tagan clan was really not simple. They even had a blacksmith, a profession that had disappeared. This had already surpassed the existence of the ancient sect. However, these were not important. No matter how powerful the Tagan clan was, they were only active in Raylorda town. Their influence didn't extend out. At least, Lin didn't find any connection between the ancient sects and them for the time being. Although Lin felt that he wasn't a blacksmith, he still continued to flip through it. After all, his curiosity made Lin unwilling to give up. Refining method: a piece of top-notch jade pendant. Chapter 2298. Number of vitality inner elixirs required for refining: 5. 5? It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a small amount either. Lin only had 3 now, including the one that the Great Fire Lion had given him. Judging from the greedy look in the Tagan dragon's eyes when it saw the vitality inner elixirs, this thing was probably not common. Even the Tagan family that often roamed the Wulonghout mountain range probably did not have many in stock, and they would not have more than 3 at most. Otherwise, they would not have rejected the condition of 1 per person. They must really need these 2 vitality inner elixirs, which was why they did not hesitate to fall out with him. There was also a note at the back. 5 was the minimum number, and the more, the better. Moreover, the higher the level of the spirit beast, the better the effect. This explanation did not have an upper limit, which made Lin a little puzzled. The more, the better? There was a limit to the size of the jade pendant. If there were too many vitality inner elixirs, would the jade pendant still be able to hold so many vitality inner elixirs? Was there a need for a huge jade pendant? With doubts, Lin continued to read the refining instructions on the next page. Auxiliary materials required for refining: pure topaz, blue crystal powder, colored steel. Fuck. When Lin saw this page, he could not help but curse. What a scam. Wasn't this too much of a scam? The supplementary materials were actually these 3 as well. Lin only had a small amount of pure topaz and colored steel for these 3 materials. He did not even have blue crystal powder. Did the refining of this vitality necklace also require these 3 materials? Lin Yi's voice was rather loud, and Sun Jingyi was awakened by Lin Yi. She opened her eyes in a daze and looked at Lin Yi. When she realized that Lin Yi was talking to himself, she fell asleep again. With a wry smile, Lin Yi continued reading. The following was an explanation of these supplementary materials. The explanation stated that for every additional inner dan of a spirit beast, a corresponding amount of pure topaz, blue crystal powder, and colored steel was required. It seemed that the more inner dawn there were, the more supplementary materials were required. However, this made Lin feel strange. These explanations were very detailed, but they didn't explain the jade pendant, the main material used to carry these things. They only said that it was a good jade pendant, and they didn't say the size of the jade pendant. It seemed that any kind of jade pendant could be used. Could it be that there was no limit to the size of the jade pendant? Suddenly, Lin thought of something. Blue crystal powder, pure topaz, and colored steel. Weren't these the necessary materials needed to refine the jade space? These materials could be used to create a virtual 4-dimensional space in the jade pendant. In that case, could these spiritual beasts Yuan Qi and Naiden also rely on the same principle? Using these 3 supplementary materials to create a virtual 4-dimensional space in the space of the jade pendant to play the role of embedding the spiritual beast Yuan Qi in Naiden? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt that it was very possible. In this way, the previous doubts could also be explained. Why was the size of the jade pendant not explained, but only the quantity of the spiritual beast yuan qi and supplementary materials was explained? I see. Lin Yi nodded in realization. He estimated that his guess was not far from the truth. Even if the space inlaid with the spiritual beast yuan qi and Niden was not a four-dimensional space, the principle should be the same. Sure enough, when Lin Yi continued to read, it was about the specific refining method of the essence necklace. However, these steps were extremely simple in Lin Yi's eyes, much simpler than the refining of the jade pendant space. The steps were simplified, and the method was also much simpler. If Lin Yi hadn't carefully looked at the refining method of the jade pendant space before, he wouldn't have found any problems at this moment. However, Lin Yi was looking forward to the refining of the jade pendant space, so he naturally paid attention to the refining method. At this time, looking at the refining method of the essence necklace, he felt that it was much simpler. That's not right. Didn't they say that blacksmiths were very rare, and that one must have the physique of gold, wood, and fire to become a blacksmith? If Lin Yi could successfully refine the jade pendant space according to the refining method described above, then refining this essence necklace would be a piece of cake. Could it be that he could become a blacksmith? If not, then what was the point of refining the jade pendant space in the jade pendant space that was taken out from the cave? This cave couldn't be deceiving him, right? Thinking of this, Lin Yi entered the jade pendant space and asked Jiao Lao, "Jiao Lao, if I collect pure topaz, blue crystal powder, and colored steel, can I refine the jade pendant space to make the jade pendant space?" This was the first time that Lin Yi had time to talk with Jiao Yazi in a long time. Previously, Lin Yi was either injured or very nervous. Even if he was in the jade pendant space, he could still sense the situation outside with his divine sense. Now he finally settled down. "That's right," Jiao Lao nodded and said with certainty. "That means I can become a blacksmith?" Lin Yi hesitated and asked, "I don't know if you can become a blacksmith, but I'm sure you can condense and make a storage space for a jade pendant. I don't know much about your mental cultivation method, and I haven't verified it in the cultivation world, so I don't know if you're a blacksmith if you can condense a storage space for a jade pendant," Elder Jiao explained. "I got a secret book on how to condense a profound chi necklace. The way to condense a profound chi necklace seems to be a simplified version of the way to condense a storage space in a jade pendant. It saves a lot of steps and is much simpler." Lin Yi told Jiao Yazi about his gains. According to the book, only a blacksmith can refine an essence chi necklace. If that's the case, then you should be able to become a blacksmith. Jiao Yazi said, "The premise is that you have mastered the mental cultivation method used to refine the jade pendant space. However, I'm not sure if you can refine an essence chi necklace. You could try. Then, can I use the jade pendant I have as the base material? It won't destroy the original function of the jade pendant. For example, it will make you disappear, right?" Lin Yi asked with some hesitation. Truth be told, if Lin Yi wore another jade pendant, it would be too long-winded and cumbersome. It would naturally be better if he could combine the two. If I use this jade pendant as the base material, I don't know if I can refine it, but it will definitely not break. Jiao Yazi said, "If this jade pendant is so easy to break, I would have lost it long ago. I wouldn't have to wait until now." Chapter 2299. Weaponsmiths had to have metal, wood, and fire elements, and elixirs only had to have wood and fire elements. In other words, all weaponsmiths should know how to concoct elixirs, but Lin Yi didn't? What was the reason for this? Shaking his head, Lin Yi didn't think about it for the time being. With Han Jingjing, the mobile furnace beside him, it didn't matter if he was an alchemist or not. Wouldn't it be more awesome to focus on blacksmithing? It seemed like he had to quickly collect the three materials: pure yellow jade, blue crystal powder, and colored steel. Only by collecting more of these three materials could he create an essence necklace and a storage space. However, he reckoned that the Tagan family should have these three materials, or at least a few of them. When Tagan Long wanted to condense the essence chi necklace, he should have started to collect these supplementary materials. Otherwise, even if he found the essence Chi Niden of a spirit beast, it would be useless. It was impossible now. In the future, when he was stronger, he would go to the Tagan family in Ruilita town and steal some good stuff. Not to mention the supplementary materials. Just Tagan Long's 5-element Bawajong was enough to make Lin Yi drool. Just the first style was so powerful. What kind of domineering technique was this? Thinking about the 5-element Bawajong, Lin Yi's heart started to itch. This kind of technique was simply unheard of. If Lin Yi didn't experience it himself, it would be hard to imagine that there would be a technique that was even better than the Frenzy Fire Fist in this world. The Frenzy Fire Fist was the ultimate technique of the ancient sect that Faubert was in. It must be quite powerful. For thousands of years, many sect masters had practiced it, and there were many masters who were at the peak of Sky Class late phase peak. It could be seen how powerful this technique was. Even if Faubert's sect was only a second or third-rate ancient sect, as long as it was related to the ancient times, it shouldn't be simple. For example, Feng Nitian and Zhang Nai Peo, they shouldn't be underestimated. At this moment, Lin Yi had an urge to steal the technique. Even thinking about the power of the 5-element Bawajong, he couldn't suppress it and wanted to explore the Tagan family again. Lin Yi was very sure that if he could learn this technique, it wouldn't be a dream for him to fight an Earth-class late-phase peak. Tagan Long's defense wasn't much, but his attack was unquestionable. Although he was heavily injured by Lin Yi in the end, the damage to Lin Yi wasn't small either. Lin Yi was very clear that if he didn't have the firebolt in his hand, it would be hard to say who would be the first to fall. Tagan Long, 5 Bawa Bawa Zong, of the Fire Bawa Bawa Fist was just a trick. Once this idea popped up in Lin Yi's mind, it was just a flash of inspiration. However, once this idea popped up, it was a little uncontrollable. It was like bamboo shoots after the rain, germinating in Lin Yi's heart. It wanted to urge Lin Yi to take action. Of course, this was impossible. It was an act of suicide, and Lin Yi definitely wouldn't do it. Even if the terrifying 12th and 6th brother didn't make a move, just Tagan Long, second guardian, and third guardian would be enough to make Lin Yi suffer. So instead of taking the risk, it was better to carefully recall the scene when he fought with Tagan Long last night. Thinking of this, Lin Yi closed his eyes slightly. The scene in the Tagan family's library last night was like a movie, slowly replaying in front of his eyes. From a moment Tagan Long entered the library and made his first move, everything appeared in Lin Yi's mind. However, the situation at that time was relatively urgent, and Lin Yi didn't pay attention to Tagan Long's martial arts technique at first, so he more or less missed it at the beginning. However, Tagan Long's movements later, especially the strange light flashing on his palms, were still fresh in Lin Yi's memory. Lin Yi frowned. He couldn't help but stretch out his palm and imitate Tagan Long's movements, deducing the situation back and forth according to his memory. However, Lin Yi could only remember the activation method of Tagan Long's martial arts technique. Lin Yi didn't know the mantra he cultivated. As such, Lin Yi could only imitate the Tagan Dragon's method of activation and the way he struck out. As for the mantra to activate the martial arts technique, Lin Yi could only use the art of dragon mastery to make up for it. Then, he used the activation method of Frenzy Fire Fist to convert his True Chi into Frenzy Fire Fist's fire attribute True Chi and infused it into his palms. Ah! Lin Yi shouted angrily and pushed out both palms. In order not to affect Sun Jingyi, Lin Yi only used the first form of Frenzy Fire Fist's fire attribute True Chi. Boom! Boom! Two loud noises that seemed to shatter the void came from the air. This was the power produced by Lin Yi's palms in the air. Although Lin Yi's 5 elements 8 trigrams palm looked a little nondescript, like a combination of Tagan Long's 5 elements 8 trigrams palm and Lin Yi's Frenzy Fire Fist, its power was beyond Lin Yi's imagination. This move only used the mantra of the first form of Frenzy Fire Fist. Combined with the activation method of Tagan Long's 5 elements 8 trigrams palm that Lin Yi had imitated and deduced, the Fire Dragon 8 trigrams palm that he executed was more powerful than Frenzy Fire Fist. Although it could not be compared to Taganlong's authentic 5 elements 8 trigrams palm, it was much more powerful than Lin Yi's previous Frenzy Fire Fist. Lin Yi's first form of Frenzy Fire Fist was at least equivalent to the second form of Frenzy Fire Fist. Even so, Lin Yi's heart was filled with crazy joy and pride. Although he did not know if the second form of Fire Dragon 8 trigrams palm, released by combining the mantra of the second form of Frenzy Fire Fist with the activation method of the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm, what was certain was that it was definitely much more powerful than the ordinary second form of Frenzy Fire Fist. I can actually create my own martial arts technique now? In Lin Yi's knowledge, only the founders of the various ancient sects or martial arts masters could create martial arts techniques. But Lin Yi had created his own martial arts technique. Although its power was not comparable to the original 5 elements 8 trigrams palm, it was already a miracle that Lin Yi could successfully execute this martial arts technique that had been disassembled and modified by him. How could he ask for more? One must know that not all of the founders of ancient sects were able to create their own martial skills. The martial skills that they cultivated were all passed down from ancient times and were refined by some martial arts seniors over and over again. Even in ancient times, only an extremely small number of talented cultivators could summarize and create a unique martial technique. Even if they wanted to modify and perfect an existing martial technique, it was not an easy thing to do. Chapter 2300. Moreover, it produced a completely new martial skill that could even bring about enormous might. That was even rarer. Could it be that he was a genius? After calming down, Lin Yi suppressed his arrogance. Lin Yi knew very well whether he was a genius or not. Perhaps he was slightly more talented than the average cultivator, but he was definitely not a genius. In fact, in the current world of cultivation, the so-called genius was just someone who had a special physique and cultivated a corresponding special mental cultivation method. Then, they displayed monstrous cultivation speed and strength. Such people were often called cultivation geniuses. But because of this, Lin Yi was called a genius. It was just that this was all thanks to the art of dragon mastery and the space in the jade pendant. His physique just happened to be able to cultivate the art of dragon mastery, so he was called a genius. Vaguely, Lin Yi felt that the reason he was able to create a new martial technique that combined 2 martial techniques and was able to successfully activate it in one go was because of the omnipotent martial technique. He had cultivated a martial technique that did not have any practical combat characteristics, but after cultivating it, he could practice all kinds of other martial techniques at will. He could even easily activate martial techniques of different physique attributes. Lin Yi felt that this had a lot to do with the martial technique. And the reason why he was able to activate the martial skill that he had fabricated and integrated should be because he had cultivated this strange, omnipotent martial skill. If the activation method of the Fire Dragon 8 trigrams palm was written into a martial technique mantra, it would not be so easy for Faubert or others to activate it. This was because Lin Yi could feel the jerkiness and loopholes in the fusion of the two. But even so, Lin Yi was able to successfully activate it easily. It was a miracle. After Lin Yi calmed down, Lin Yi thought about it again and simulated the situation of activating the Fire Dragon 8 trigrams palm. There is still a big difference between it and Taganlong's 5 elements 8 trigrams palm. At least the color of the chi on the palm was different. His palm was red, but Taganlong's was a strange, kind of colorful. Was it not fire chi? Lin Yi tried to recall how he felt when he fought Taganlong yesterday, but he didn't have much of an impression of it. The scene of the fight was still in his mind, but he couldn't remember what it felt like during the fight. Was it a wood, water, metal, or earth martial technique? Thinking of this, Lin Yi decided to use the wood martial technique. The wood forest thousand changes martial technique mantra together with the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm activation method to activate the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm. How powerful would it be? Once he thought of this, Lin Yi became a little impatient. He stood up and shouted in his heart again. Using the Wood Forest Thousand Changes martial technique mantra together with the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm activation method, he released the second form of the Wood Forest 8 trigrams palm. Bang, 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 bang. For loud, sounds exploded in the air. Lin Yi's 2 palms became 4, releasing a powerful force in the air. Oh, what a powerful force. Each palm actually had the power of the second form of the Frenzy Fist. That was equivalent to the power of the third form of an ordinary martial technique. Lin looked at his hands in surprise and exclaimed, under normal circumstances, the power of a single punch of the second form of the Wood Forest Thousand Changes was actually equivalent to the second form of an ordinary martial technique. However, it was different from an ordinary martial technique. An ordinary martial technique could only activate one punch or one palm at the same time. Even a person who is infinitely skilled in using martial techniques could only use 2 fists or palms. However, the Wood Forest Thousand Changes could double the power, turning 1 fist or palm into 2 fists or palms, and then turning 2 fists or palms into 4 fists or palms. However, at this moment, the Wood Forest Thousand Changes that Lin used the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm method to activate not only retained the doubled power, but also allowed Lin to activate the power of the second form of the Frenzy Fist, which was equivalent to the power of the third form of an ordinary martial technique. Lin Yi's Forest Thousand transformations, from what he'd seen before, was actually a pretty useless skill. Each style could increase the number of attacks, but it wasn't as powerful as the Raging Fire Fist. But now, combining the 5 elements Bagwazang and Lin Yi's Forest Thousand transformations together allowed him to unleash an even more powerful skill. How could he not be happy? What a pleasant surprise. Besides being happy, Lin Yi was even more certain that he could successfully fuse the Wood Forest Thousand Changes with the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm, because of that inexplicable omnipotent martial technique. Otherwise, one could be said to be a coincidence and an accident, but how could 2 be a coincidence and an accident? Of course, in the eyes of outsiders, Lin Yi was a genius. A gratified smile appeared at the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. It seemed that the fight with Tagon Long was not in vain. If one were to say that the biggest gain from this trip to the Wulong Haut mountain range was probably the 2 new martial techniques created with the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm. Each had a stronger attack power, which made the trip worthwhile for Lin Yi. After continuously thinking, deducing, and activating the new martial techniques, Lin Yi was a little tired. Looking at the sleeping Sun Jingyi, Lin Yi also fell on the other bed and entered the space in the jade pendant to recover his strength. In a majestic hall, an old man dressed in an 8 trigrams robe was frowning as he felt the pulse of a pale young man lying on the bed with his eyes closed. This old man was the master of Old 6 and Old 12, Elder Xianxian. Beside him stood the ashamed and guilty Old 6 and Old 12. Although Taganlong's injury was not directly related to them, it had still happened under their watch. The 2 of them had indirectly obstructed Zhang Naipeo, so at this moment, they were trembling with fear in front of their master, not daring to breathe loudly. Very heavy, very troublesome. Elder Xianxian frowned and spat out 5 words. These 5 words made the hearts of Old 6 and Old 12 sink. Master, can it be cured? Old 6 asked hurriedly. I'm not sure. Perhaps only by refining the Great Huan Pill will there be hope, but the refining of the Great Huan Pill is very troublesome, and many of the materials are scarce. Even if we gather the materials, it will take a while. Elder Xianshan sighed, his face very ugly. After so many years, that big plan could finally be realized. The arrangements for the other inheritors were more or less done. Everything was ready. They only needed to wait for the pagoda dragon to slowly mature and step into the heaven rank before they could start that plan. However, all these years of hope had been shattered. Chapter 23:01. Although his current sect was already a top-notch existence in the current martial arts world, and even the heads of the ancient sect had to respectfully refer to it as that place and did not dare to directly call the sect by its name, it was still the same as before. However, that wasn't what the Xiantian ancestor wanted. What he wanted was to return to that level, the level that his sect should have returned to. And to return to that level, he and his fellow disciples had to step into a higher realm. Stepping into a higher realm was inseparable from that plan. But now, everything had become a bubble? Was it all for naught? Looking at the extremely ugly expression on his master's face, Old Six smiled bitterly and said, "It's all my fault and 12th junior brother's fault. We made a mistake. Please punish us, master." "Forget it. I don't care about this." The Xiantian ancestor waved his hand. "I also didn't expect that after so many years, that crazy old man's martial arts didn't retreat, but instead advanced. He was actually able to create such a large force to kill Little 13. Even if you guys met him, your chances of winning weren't high. Now that the two of you can return safely, it can be considered a blessing in misfortune." The Xiantian ancestor didn't blame his disciple carelessly because he also knew that his disciple was actually innocent in this matter. After all, this matter was unpredictable. If he had known that the heaven stage crazy old man had become so powerful, he would have even sent Little 1 and Little 2. He wouldn't have left this matter to Little 6 and Little 12. "Thank you for your understanding, Master." Old Six breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that although his master was sad, he could still distinguish right from wrong and wouldn't blame others carelessly. "Have you found out anything about that Zhang Naipeo? Who is he, and where did he come from?" The Xiantian ancestor asked. "Big senior brother has already gone to find out. There should be news soon, right?" Old Six said. And the Xiantian ancestor nodded. Just as they spoke, a peak late-stage heaven stage master whose strength was infinitely close to the great perfection stage walked in. This person was the big senior brother that Old Six mentioned. "Little E, you're back. Is there any news?" Patriarch Black Earth asked indifferently. "Sure, Fu, after some investigation, that Zhang Naipeo is from the Everyday and Everyday sect, the disciple of the sect's leader. It's said that he's the candidate chosen by their elder to train in the chrysanthemum arts." The big brother evidently knew some of the Xiantian elder's plans and secrets, and so his expression was very troubled. "What? He's from the Everyday and Everyday sect, and he's a cultivator of the chrysanthemum treasure book?" Patriarch Xiantian was stunned, and his expression became a little strange. He didn't want to offend the Everyday and Everyday sect if it wasn't necessary, and if he wanted to carry out the final plan, the disciples of the Everyday and Everyday sect who trained in the chrysanthemum treasure book were an important part of the plan. In order to start the plan, there must be someone who trained in the chrysanthemum treasure book wasp absorption arts. That's right. But whether it's that Zhang Naipeo or not, I don't know for now. I've already sent a letter to ask about the Everyday and Everyday sect Zhang Naipeo's recent movements. If it's him, the big brother paused here and didn't continue. It's good that it's not him. But if it's him, then we won't be able to get our revenge. Who told Tagon Long to be so blind and offend Zhang Naipeo? The Xiantian ancestor sighed and said helplessly, "But I don't think it's him. After all, if it really is that Zhang Naipeo from the Everyday and Everyday sect, then with his wasp absorption arts, he wouldn't be so helpless in front of the Earth Class 5 protector, and even saved by the Fire Lion." Old Six said, after some hesitation. What Little Six said makes sense. The Xiantian ancestor waved his hand and said, "Fortunately, I still have a backup plan. Now, activate the second backup plan. Little E, you go and arrange it. Of course, don't let up on the medicine for Taganlong's treatment. Find it as soon as possible." "Yes, Master." The big brother nodded and quickly responded. However, Old Six and Old 12 didn't know what the backup plan was. They still couldn't come into contact with these core secrets, but they didn't dare to ask casually. They just stood at the side and waited quietly. After the big brother left, the Xiantian ancestor waved his hand at Old Six and Old 12 and said, "You guys leave first. I have to carefully think about the future plan." "Yes, Master." Old Six and Old 12 also cupped their fists at the same time and carefully left. The Xiantian ancestor was not in a good mood at the moment. Although there was a backup plan, there was an irreparable flaw in the backup plan. Unless those inheritors also had some kind of heaven-defying situation, this flaw could not be made up for. Taganlong didn't have such a problem, but there was no other way. Before Taganlong's injuries were healed, the Xinshan ancestor had to use the backup plan. Even if the backup plan was flawed, it was still better than losing everything in the end. There was no turning back. The Xinshan ancestor had waited for so many years, and finally, the inheritors appeared frequently. He didn't want to miss this rare opportunity. The Xinshan ancestor stood in the hall from day to night, not moving at all. At night, the big brother returned again. Master, the everyday sect replied that Zhang Naipeo has been meeting friends in the sect recently and hasn't left. The big brother took the letter from the everyday sect and presented it to the master. I don't want to read it. The everyday sect wouldn't lie, and they aren't weak either. There's no need to lie to us. The Xinshan ancestor sighed. This Zhang Naipeo is most likely someone with the same name, or he's trying to frame the everyday sect, or maybe he's a descendant of the sect on the mountain, framing the everyday sect. Want to see us fight with them. He's just sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight. That should be it. The big brother nodded, thinking so too. How is it? Have you informed the spy to prepare to take over the Mingzi? The Xinshan ancestor asked. I've already sent the letter through the bird, but although the spy is strong, the chance of success should be smaller if we let him do it now. What if he fails? The big brother hesitated and said, There's no way out. According to my calculations, the time is getting closer and closer. If we miss it, who knows how long we'll have to wait. I can't wait, and I can't wait. I can only tell the spy to be more careful. The Xinshan ancestor said, Man, can't we help? The big brother asked. Chapter 23:02. At this point, the Xinshan ancestor didn't say anything else, evidently not wanting to explain more. The big Shi Xiang, on the other hand, didn't ask any more. Then I'll tell the spy to get ready. Go, but don't let anyone know about the spies. Some sects that don't have a successor might become envious. They might not dare to openly oppose us, but if they do something in the dark, we won't be able to guard against them. Patriarch Xinshan said, I understand. Don't worry, Shifu. Only you and I know about the spy. Even the spy himself doesn't know his fate. The big Shi Xiang said, All right, go. The Xinshan ancestor nodded. Donghai City. Lingshan had captured the kidnappers, but hadn't been able to get any information out of them. After reporting to Huaijuan, Lingshan came to the conclusion that the mastermind behind this kidnapping case and the fake Lin Yi case in Songshan could be the same mastermind. It was possible that the two cases could be connected at the same time. But if that was the case, the clues would be broken. Whether it was the fake Lin Yi or the kidnapper, they were both idiots. According to the doctor, their brains had been destroyed by the drug, and everything they did was based on hypnosis. They didn't have any consciousness of their own. Both Lingshan and Huaijuan were quite troubled by this situation. The kidnapper was caught, and they knew that there was an 80% chance that there was a mastermind behind this, but they couldn't find any clues from the kidnapper. If this was a headache, there would be even more headaches after this. Not long after Wang Xinyan's kidnapping was over, another student was kidnapped at Donghai Industry University in Donghai City. This time, the student was a sophomore, and his father was the chairman of a famous company in the city. He had over 500 million in assets, and the kidnapper also extorted 10 million from the chairman. However, the chairman followed the kidnapper's instructions and didn't call the police. He transferred 10 million to the kidnapper, and the kidnapper kept his word and let his son go. After seeing his son return home safely, the chairman came to the police station to report the case. As for whether or not they caught the kidnapper, it didn't matter to him anymore. As long as his son was safe, everything was fine. He didn't really care about the 10 million. Lingshan, on the other hand, was troubled by this. Weren't these kidnappers a little too bold? They just failed once, and now they were kidnapping again? From the kidnapping methods and the amount of ransom demanded, it could be determined that these two kidnappings were done by the same criminal organization behind the scenes. The kidnapper who was caught before was just a small character who carried out the execution on the surface. Even though he was caught, it couldn't hurt the criminal organization. However, that was not the case. The 02 drug was not that easy to concoct. The success rate of concocting the culture fluid was currently very low. With Professor Yin's hard work, he had finally managed to concoct 2 doses of 02 drug. If he were to concoct another one, it would be very difficult. It was not something he could succeed in a short period of time. This drug was much stronger than the 01, but the fact that it couldn't be mass-produced was a huge drawback. He could only slowly research and improve it. And so, Jiang Wen's resources were greatly damaged after the kidnapper was captured. Fortunately, the second target's family was very obedient and gave him the money just like that. It saved Jiang Wen a lot of trouble. Well done. Jiang Wen praised Li Biaohan and Scorpion. Li Biaohan, you've chosen a good target this time. Consider it as making up for your mistake of choosing Wang Xinyan. Did you find a third one? Brother Wen, I also found a third target, but it's not from our school. I'm afraid that it will attract the attention of the police if I choose the rich young master of our school again. So this time, I chose a rich girl from the nearby economics university. Li Biaohan said, "Oh, a girl?" Jiang Wen's heart skipped a beat. Are you sure this rich girl is fine? She's not Lin Yi's mistress or something, is she? Don't go against that guy again. Definitely not. She looks like a dinosaur from Jurassic Park. Lin Yi wouldn't like her, Li Biaohan said. Plus, this girl's private life is messy. She has a couple of gigolos, and she often goes to bars and nightclubs. That's good. Jiang Wen nodded in relief. Lin Yi wouldn't like a piece of trash like her. Is her family very rich? That's right. She's the only daughter, but her father is a gangster leader, and he opened an underground casino in the Southern District. He's quite powerful, Li Biaohan explained. Oh, he's just a gangster, it's fine. Jiang Wen didn't look at him at all. How could a gangster who opened a casino be compared to the Firewolves? But this rich girl has a bodyguard, and according to our investigation, he should be a practitioner, but we're not sure of his exact strength, Li Biaohan said. It's fine. He shouldn't be that strong anymore. Let's do it, Jiang Wen said to Scorpion. But remember, it's 20 million. A casino owner must have more cash. It's a waste not to take it. Yes, Scorpion nodded. Hence, the next day, the daughter of a famous gambler in the underworld was kidnapped. It was said that there was a golden-class bodyguard by his daughter's side. However, this bodyguard was nothing in front of the kidnappers. With a kick, he was sent flying. He was lying on the ground, unable to move, and seriously injured. Gambler Bro was a gangster, and his daughter was kidnapped, and his golden-class bodyguard was injured as well. This made him angry and shocked, but after calming down, he understood one thing. The kidnappers were very strong, and even a golden-class bodyguard was nothing in front of them. He had a lot of henchmen and another golden-class master in the casino, but none of them were a match for the kidnappers. They weren't even enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. And so, arm wrestling with the kidnappers was impossible. But naturally, Gambler Bro wouldn't go to the police. After all, he was a gangster boss, and it was embarrassing enough that his daughter was kidnapped. What would the other gangsters think? Plus, he looked at the problem from a gangster's point of view, trying to guess what the kidnappers were thinking. He felt that if he called the police, the kidnappers would kill him in a fit of anger. And so, Gambler Bro hesitated and decided to pay. It was only 20 million, right? Gambler Bro gritted his teeth and paid. 20 million was exactly the amount of cash he could take out right now. Chapter 2303. This incident, although Gamble Bro didn't report it to the police, but it had already spread out in the underworld. In the end, it fell into Ling Shan's ears through an informant. Although Gamble Bro didn't report it, Ling Shan couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. This was the third kidnapping case. It seemed like the culprit was very aggressive in the inn at the border town. When Sun Jingyi woke up, it was already nighttime. Lin Yi saw that Sun Jingyi had woken up and returned to reality from the Jade Space. You're awake? How do you feel? I had a good sleep, the best sleep I've had for the past few days. Sun Jingyi was full of energy. Let's eat something and go back, Lin Yi said. He didn't want to stay here any longer. Everything was done. It was time to go back. Okay. Sun Jingyi nodded. To be honest, she wanted to go back as well. Ruilita town was too dangerous, and she wanted to go back as soon as possible. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi packed their luggage and left the room. They paid the bill at the first floor of the inn and went to the parking lot behind the inn. Lin Yi's eyes widened, and after a while, he cursed angrily, "Fuck, where's my car?" Lin Yi's Jeep was gone. When Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi left the border town, the car was parked in the parking lot behind the inn. Because Lin Yi left under the arrangement of the local people, the car was left in the parking lot of the inn. Although it was an open-air parking lot, Lin Yi didn't think that the car could be lost here. Sun Jingyi, on the other hand, was startled as well. She didn't check the car when she got back to the inn. In her mind, the car shouldn't have been lost, but looking at the empty parking lot, Sun Jingyi felt a headache. What do we do? Lin Yi hesitated as well. It was just a car, and to be honest, Lin Yi didn't feel bad about losing it, but this car was different. Lin Yi drove it to the Ice Palace, and it was the companion that accompanied him and Xiao Xiao for the last part of their lives. As a result, Lin Yi had a special feeling towards this car, and this was also the reason why Lin Yi didn't change cars. Now that the car was lost, Lin Yi didn't want to part with it. He thought about it and decided to look for it. It was best to ask the local gangsters for this kind of thing. After all, the car had been lost for who knew how many days, and who knew if it was still in this border town. I'll call the local guy. Lin Yi thought of the guy. This guy was known as the local guy, so naturally he had a lot of information. He dialed Tuan Tong's phone number, and Tuan Tong quickly picked up the phone. "Hello? I'm a local guy." "Local guy, it's me. I asked you for help to go to Ruilita a few days ago," Lin Yi said. "Bro, it's you. Are you coming back? I'll send someone to pick you up." The guy got excited when he heard that it was Lin Yi. "I'm already back. There's no need to pick me up," Lin Yi said. "I see. Then why are you looking for me, bro?" The guy was a little disappointed when he heard that Lin Yi was already back. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to earn any more money. "I have something to ask you." "Don't worry. The pay won't be lower than before," Lin Yi said. That's no problem. Bro, what's the matter? Just say it. I'm the local guy." The guy was immediately excited when he heard that there was a job. "It's still the same Dragon Gate Inn. Come over. We'll wait for you at the door," Lin Yi said. "Okay, I'm coming now," the guy said happily. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the guy to drive a Jetta that was almost scrapped. When he saw Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi, he ran out of the car enthusiastically. "Bro, are you looking for me? Let's go in and talk," Lin Yi said, pointing to the inside of the inn. Lin Yi and Jingyi wouldn't be able to leave today, and so they went back to the room they'd been staying in before asking the local to take them upstairs. Now that the inn's restaurant was closed, they couldn't eat. However, the guy didn't care about this. He came here to make money. He followed Lin Yi to the room. After sitting down, he couldn't wait to ask, "Bro, is there anything you need me to do?" "The car I drove before was lost." Lin Yi said, "You're the local guy. Can you help me find out where the car went?" "Oh, the car was lost? Is it that Grand Cherokee?" The guy still remembered Lin Yi's car. "Yes, it's that one." Lin Yi nodded. "This?" The guy frowned and said, "Bro, forgive me for being straightforward. I can probably guess which group of people stole this car, but the car that was stolen by them can't be found. Your Grand Cherokee doesn't look very good. It's not worth much money. Bro, do you have to find it back?" "The car has a special meaning for me," said Lin Yi. "This is the case, but bro, I'm telling the truth. This matter isn't easy to handle." The guy smiled bitterly. Apparently, he was afraid of something. Lin Yi saw the guy's thoughts, but he didn't want to explain more nonsense to the guy. He just wanted to know the result as soon as possible. So he said directly, 200,000. Tomorrow morning, I want to know the specific whereabouts of the car. Can you do it?" Hiss. The guy listened to Lin Yi's price and took a deep breath. This stolen Grand Cherokee, which couldn't be transferred, could probably be sold for 100 or 200,000 on the black market. Lin Yi directly offered a price of 200,000 just to find the car. Obviously, you really care about the car. However, there was a saying that the timid would starve to death and the bold would die. Although there was some risk in inquiring about this matter, 200,000, the guy couldn't help but be moved. "Okay, The guy suddenly stood up and said with a red face, "Bro, you can rest assured. Leave this matter to me. I will get it done tomorrow morning. And I believe in you." Although he said that he believed in the guy, he wasn't very sure whether the guy had the ability to find out the news of his lost car. The guy ran out of the room happily and went to activate his network to inquire about the news. He only wanted the news of the car's whereabouts, not to find the car. This wasn't too difficult for the guy. Chapter 2304. It's a bit of a memento. When I sent Xiao Xiao to the Ice Palace, I drove this car. It's the last place we spent time together, he said emotionally. The meaning of the car is greater than its value. I see. Sun Jingyi nodded in understanding. I'm just trying to stay here for a night. If there's still no news tomorrow, then forget it. He comforted himself. Okay. Sun Jingyi could tell what he was thinking. But what surprised was that the next morning, the local driver came running back. "Bro, there's news. There's news," the local driver said excitedly. "Oh, there's news?" He paused. This local driver was a genius. Where's the car? It's no longer in the border town. The person who stole the car is a local thief gang. The person who committed the crime is called Niao San. He only stole the car because your car has a foreign license plate, and it has been parked behind this inn for a long time without anyone driving it. So he took it away, the local driver said. Then he sold it for 100,000 to a drug organization called Red Conscious. I heard that they've driven it to the neighboring Qing Run City to transport drugs. Qing Run City? Red Conscious? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed as he smiled coldly. Red Conscious again? He had wanted to do something to them back in Rueda, but something happened that forced Yi to leave Rueda. What he didn't expect was that on the first day he came back, the car was stolen by Red Conscious. These guys were really good. If Yi didn't go after them, then he'd be letting them down for stealing the car. Yi had a special hatred for the Red Conscious, not because they went against Tianlong and kidnapped Xiao Xiao, but because of Armadillo. This was something he couldn't let go of. The people and forces involved in Armadillo's persecution were all taken out by Yi one by one, like the common house you. Even if there was a hidden house you behind them, Yi still wiped them out easily. And now, although the Red Conscious was only a branch force in the country and had connections with the Fire Wolf Gang and the Tagan family, whether it was the Fire Wolf Gang or the Tagan family, which one of them hadn't been turned upside down by Yi, since they had bumped into each other this time, Yi naturally had no reason to let them go. However, what Yi didn't expect was that Qing Run City was near the border town. Yes, it's the nearby Qing Run City. That's the headquarters of the Red Conscious. Dongfang Tong nodded. Bro, your car's license plate is a little special, and they seem to recognize it. They didn't even bargain for 100,000 and just bought it. But it'll be troublesome to get the car back after it's gone there. Special? Of course it was special. Lin Yi's car was given to him by Tianlong, and the license plate belonged to the Supernatural Investigation Department. They were the enemies of the Red Conscious. How could they not recognize this car? Using this kind of car to transport drugs was obviously the best. I understand. Thanks for the information. I won't look for the car anymore. Give me your account number. I'll transfer 200,000 to you. Yi and Dongfang Tong naturally said that they wouldn't look for the car, but Yi himself wouldn't let the Red Conscious go so easily. Dongfang Tong nodded. He knew that the car left and went to the headquarters of the Red Conscious. Even if Yi was a Golden Division adventurer, he definitely wouldn't go deep into the Tiger's Den. One had to know that the Red Conscious organization had an Earth Division peak late phase master. He was just a small Golden Division. Going there was no different from suicide. Although I got some information, it might not be of much use to you. Just give me 50,000. It's not easy for me to get 200,000. Dongfang Tong was very trustworthy when doing business. This was also the reason why he relied on this business to survive for so long. There were many repeat customers, and it wasn't a one-time deal. Haha, then 100,000 it is. He didn't insist on giving 200,000 because he was afraid that Dongfang Tong would be suspicious. Thank you, bro. Let me treat you to breakfast. Dongfang Tong was very happy to earn some money. It's okay, we should go back now. Lin Yi said. All right, next time then. Dong Fong Tong didn't force the issue. After Lin Yi transferred the money to Dong Fong Tong, he left the inn with Sun Jingyi and took a long-distance bus out of the border town. Lin Yi didn't call for a car at the border town. This would easily raise the suspicion of the local forces in the Red Conches. Although Dong Fong Tong wouldn't betray them, who knew if the Red Conches had spies on this matter? Lin Yi's goal this time was to uproot the local forces in the Red Conches. He wouldn't give them any time to prepare or breathe. You've decided to touch the Red Conches? After getting off the bus, the two of them went to take a short train. In the waiting room, Sun Jingyi didn't understand. Yes, Lin Yi nodded. It's not for the car. It's for a friend, a dead friend. Sun Jingyi paused. Seeing Lin Yi's sad face, she was a little curious, but she didn't want to touch on Lin Yi's sad past. She hesitated and didn't ask. Curious, aren't you? Lin Yi said with a sigh as he looked at Jingyi. No. If something happens to me and Chen Tian, you'll still stand up for us. Sun Jingyi said. After we get to Qing Run City, find a hotel to stay in and pretend that you didn't contact me. I'll do the rest alone. Lin Yi said. Qing Run was a bigger city, and while it was the headquarters of the Red Conches, they didn't dare do anything illegal in the open. Jingyi's hotel was safe for the time being. After Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi took the train to Qing Run City, Lin Yi got into a taxi and went to a hotel with Sun Jingyi. Since it's boring, I'll contact Chen Tian and the others. We're safe now anyway. I'll go do something and come find you after I'm done. Lin Yi said. But don't worry, it should be fine. It'll be much easier than Rue Leda. Why don't you bring the Skynet and 1,000 silk mask? Sun Jingyi said. I don't need them here. Chapter 2305. Lin Yi wasn't 100% sure that he could uproot the Red Conches. After all, this was just a branch in the country. Before Lin Yi started a full-scale war with the Red Conches, it was better not to reveal his identity, lest he attracted some unnecessary trouble. After leaving the hotel, Lin Yi put on the 1,000 silk mask in a place where there was no one around. The 1,000 silk mask transformed into a different appearance for everyone who wore it, but it couldn't be changed according to his own thoughts. In other words, everyone would become a specific appearance after wearing it. The Lin Yi who wore the mask was completely different from before. The previous Lin Yi was harmless and had a sunny appearance. But now Lin Yi was a cold god. He didn't look easy to provoke like someone from the underworld. Lin Yi stopped the taxi and went straight to the conch bar. This was the stronghold of the Red Conches. However, from the outside, the conch bar looked like a relatively large bar. The entrance of the bar was full of luxury cars. People came and went, bustling and lively. It didn't look like a problematic bar at all. Lin Yi came here to find out. So the role that Lin Yi played today was a young man who had failed at work and came here to drink and have fun. Although he looked very cold, if Lin Yi showed a melancholic expression, it wouldn't be so eye-catching. Since Lin Yi came alone and didn't drive, no one paid attention to him when he entered the bar. He found the most remote table and sat down. A waiter came over and asked Lin Yi what he wanted to drink. A friend introduced me here. We're the specialties. Lin Yi took the menu and asked casually after a few glances. Rainbow whiskey, our bar's signature liquor. It's sweet but not intoxicating and has a delicate taste. You can try it, sir. The waiter recommended. Okay, 1 cup, a fruit platter, and a fruit platter. Lin Yi returned the menu to the waiter. Okay, sir. It's a total of 362 yuan. I'll charge you 360 yuan. Bill first. The waiter noted down what Lin Yi wanted. Lin Yi casually took out 400 yuan bills from his wallet and handed them to the waiter. The rest is your tip. Keep the change. Ah, thank you. The waiter was stunned and quickly took the money. He saw that Lin Yi didn't look like a rich man. He looked travel-worn and a little depressed. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would tip him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. The drinks he recommended were too cheap. It seemed that the person in front of him was not short of money. However, since he had already ordered, the waiter could only wait for the opportunity to recommend those items with a high commission. When the items that Lin Yi wanted were served, the waiter retreated to the side and stared at Lin Yi from time to time. Lin Yi was a cautious person. Naturally, it was easy for him to see through the waiter's thoughts. He smiled slightly in his heart. I was just worried that I couldn't find someone to investigate. This waiter sent himself to the door. It was really a case of being sleepy and bumping into a pillow. Pretending to drink the rainbow whiskey in front of him, Lin Yi casually ate a few mouthfuls of nuts, then reached out his hand and called out to the waiter, "Waiter, sir, what can I do for you?" The waiter ran over with a smile on his face. He clearly saw the thick stack of bills in Lin Yi's wallet. "This liquor is not strong. Do you have something more exciting?" Lin Yi's words were very skillful. He used excitement instead of a better liquor. This gave others room to imagine. This conch bar was the stronghold of the Red Conches. Lin Yi didn't believe that there was no drug trafficking here. It was impossible for these waiters not to know the inside story. Of course, for ordinary customers, these people probably wouldn't promote drugs. After all, the risk was too high. However, it was different for rich customers. These people were likely to become repeat customers. At that time, waiting for the waiter would be a high commission. Sure enough, after Lin Yi finished speaking, the waiter's face changed slightly. He whispered, "There are ecstasy pills." "Sir, do you want to have a good time?" "Ecstasy pills. It's not interesting." Lin Yi expressed his lack of interest. "Forget it. This isn't Raylight Town. It's impossible to buy wheat flour here. Give me some ecstasy pills." Lin Yi deliberately played hard to get. He was interested in this waiter's greed. When he saw the money in his wallet, Lin Yi wasn't afraid that he wouldn't take the bait. Raylight Town? The waiter naturally knew this place. This place wasn't far from a border town. Especially for someone like him who had been a waiter for a few years, he knew a lot about the inside story of the conch bar. Wheat flour was sold, but it was only sold to rich regular customers. Moreover, some of them were sold in bulk. There were fewer individual customers. Raylight Town was under the influence of the Red Conches. It was naturally normal to sell wheat flour. If this customer in front of him had stayed there before, then it could be explained. Thinking of this, the waiter gritted his teeth. He made a decision to test Lin Yi. If Lin Yi was really a rich customer, then it wasn't impossible to do business with him. After all, looking at the few people around him who used to be waiters, they had now become the backbone of the drug trade. They were earning a lot of money every month, so the waiters were very envious. Lin Yi tipped the waiter another 400 kwai after getting him 2 ecstasy pills, making the waiter even more happy than before. He was getting a little dizzy from all the money he'd just received. Lin Yi took the ecstasy pill and threw it into his mouth. Of course, Lin Yi's hand speed was already very fast. He also had a master who was a master thief. It was easy for him to fool the waiter and make it look like he had swallowed ecstasy. Seeing Lin Yi eat 2 pills together, the waiter was a little surprised. Although ecstasy wasn't a very strong drug, it was easy to have problems if one took too much of it. Unless one was an old smoker who had immunity to this kind of thing, he naturally wouldn't be afraid. It seemed that Lin Yi was the legendary old smoker. Because the waiter found that after he swallowed ecstasy, he seemed to be fine. This made him even more certain that Lin Yi must be a high-level drug addict. It's not strong. When I ate this a few years ago, it felt quite good. Now, when I eat it, there's no feeling. Lin Yi shook his head and said with a very regretful look, "It's about the same as jelly beans. It's not exciting." "Hey, bro, actually, if you want something more exciting, we have it here." The waiter hesitated and said in a low voice. Chapter 2306. Hey, bro, you're right. I can guarantee you that the goods here are the purest you've ever seen. As for the price, the retail price is definitely more expensive than the wholesale price, but I can guarantee that the price you get here is also the lowest in the country. The waiter had worked in the conch bar for many years. He was also a peripheral member of the Red Conch, so he naturally knew some secrets. The Red Conch was one of the largest international drug trafficking organizations. Moreover, the conch bar was a stronghold for the wholesale drug trade. Many foreign merchants came here to pick up their goods, so the waiter dared to boast. "Oh, give me some a try." Lin Yi expressed his interest in the waiter's words. "Sir, if you're interested, please follow me to the private room. After all, this is a public place. The waiter reminded carefully. Okay, let's go. Lin nodded. The waiter happily led Lin to a small single private room. People who came to the bar to have fun were just looking for the liveliness. Very few people would order a private room. They would either sit in the hall, by the bar, or on the dance floor. Therefore, the purpose of the private room was very simple. Other than renting a room for young men and women who were out of control, it was also for customers who came here to take drugs or trade drugs. This waiter's nickname was Hammer. He had worked here for nearly 5 years from a waiter to a peripheral member of the Red Conch. Of course, he didn't have any achievements. Other than the waiter's salary and commission, he basically didn't have any other income. Seeing that someone who entered the industry after him had become the contact of many drug lords, Hammer was very jealous. However, his fate wasn't very good. Most of the customers he met were individual customers like Lin. No matter how rich he was, he couldn't earn much. But relatively speaking, he was already very satisfied to meet a rich customer like Lin. After all, it wasn't common to meet big drug lords who came here to do wholesale drugs. After entering the private room, Lin roughly looked around. The private room was very small. There was only a sofa and a coffee table. There was nothing else. The decorations weren't very luxurious either. It was indeed a place for young men and women to vent and take drugs. Sir, how many? Hammer asked directly after entering the room. What's the price? Asked Lin. 500 gram, Hammer said. 500? It's not that expensive. Although Lin was not a drug addict, because of the pangolin incident, he paid special attention to the red conches and the drug dealers, especially when Bald Wolf and Audie were trading. Lin did a rough calculation. Their trading price had basically reached $3 to $4 per gram, while the red conches were selling for $500 per gram. That was about $80. The retail price was really not that high. Speaking of which, Bald Wolf did a lot of transactions, and the retail price could be as high as $200 to $300. Of course, I've already said that our prices are very advantageous here. Hammer let out a sigh of relief after hearing Lin Yi's words. Give me 5 grams first. Lin Yi took out $3,000 from his wallet and handed it to Hammer. Then he said, take the rest as a tip. Thank you, thank you. Shui Zi took the money and went to prepare happily. Not to mention the commission of the 5 grams of wheat flour. Just a 500 yuan tip was enough to make Shui Zi very happy. Soon, Hammer came back and gave Lin 5 small self-sealing bags and a set of tools for sucking wheat flour. Then he smiled strangely. Sir, please enjoy. There's a pager here. You can call me at any time. My name is Hammer. Okay, go ahead. Lin pretended to be impatient and waved his hand, indicating that Hammer could leave. After leaving, Lin pretended to start taking drugs. Of course, it was impossible for Lin to really take this thing. Lin was not a fool. Although cultivators could use their true qi to expel the poison, if Lin really inhaled it, wouldn't that be asking for trouble? When he was on a mission in the primeval forest abroad, there were many drug addicts among the enemy's armed forces. Lin had never eaten pork before, but he had seen pigs run. He followed suit and began to smoke. Of course, Lin did it for the people in the surveillance room. He didn't know if the surveillance camera in the room was turned on, but even if Lin found the camera, he had no intention of destroying it. Lin pretended to make the other party lower their guard, and through Hammer, he could get in touch with a heavyweight. In Lin Yi's view, Hammer's activity range was limited to the Conch Bar. This was only the Red Conch stronghold, but it was definitely not the headquarters. Lin was here to cause trouble. If he directly came and smashed the bar, then the people behind the scenes would have already received the news and hidden. Lin was just a minion who smashed the bar and caught some small fries. It was impossible for him to hurt the Red Conch. Lin seemed to be smoking, but in fact, he was holding his breath and leisurely wasting $3,000. Lin pressed the call button in the room, and not long after, Hammer ran in. How is it, brother? The purity is good, right? Hammer saw Lin Yi's relaxed expression, and in order to hold Lin Yi back and make him a repeat customer, His tone became more enthusiastic, and he directly started to call Lin brother. Oh, not bad. Lin waved his hand and said, "Get me 2 drinks. I'm a little excited, and I need some to calm myself down." "Okay, brother, please wait a moment." Chue Z ran out of the room happily, coming back with 2 cups of fruit juice in no time at all, putting them in front of Lin. "How much?" Lin asked. "Hey, brother, aren't you looking down on me by asking this? You tipped me so much, so this juice is on me." Hammer, naturally, wasn't going to let Lin pay for 2 glasses of juice. It wasn't like he had much in the first place, so Hammer might as well pretend to be generous. "All right then, I won't argue with you. Sit down, have a drink with me?" Lin pushed a glass of juice over to Hammer. "Sure." Hammer readily agreed. He wanted to find a chance to get closer to Lin and see if Lin could buy more flour in one go. This was also why he was treating Lin to the juice, and now that Lin was inviting him, he naturally took the chance and sat down. "What's your name, brother?" "People call me Pow, but you can call me Gunslinger." Lin was used to using Zhang Naipeo's name, so he repeated it. Chapter 2307. Not bad. At least in terms of purity, there's no problem. Lin nodded and said, "It's about the same as the goods I'm using. I won't hide it from you. My gang is also doing this business overseas. Your goods are about the same purity as the goods we've imported. It's hard to imagine that you can find goods of such high purity here." "That's right. I didn't cheat you, did I? I said that the purity is definitely high." Hammer was proud, but also a little disappointed. So, Lin Yi's gang overseas was also doing this? Didn't that mean that today's deal was a one-off deal? He was a little unwilling. However, just as Hammer was unwilling, Lin spoke again. "But the price is cheap in terms of retail, but it's a little expensive to get the goods." Gunslinger wants to get the goods. Hammer was delighted and couldn't help but ask, "I do want to get the goods, but I definitely can't get them from you." Lin deliberately loosened the reins. "Your price here is too high." "Oh? What's the price of the goods that Gunslinger got in the past?" Hammer quickly asked. "I used to get the goods from an overseas drug lord called Audie. It was about $4 or $5. Lin said. "But this guy Audie suddenly disappeared, and I couldn't get in touch with him. I had to look for a news source. Did you find Gunslinger?" Hammer was ecstatic as he continued to ask. "Not yet. I heard that there's a source in Railite Town, so I thought about going there to take a look. However, I'm not familiar with the place, so I couldn't find the source. I plan to go there again when I have time." Lin pretended to be depressed. After listening to Lin Yi's words, Hammer wanted to laugh. This was a godsend opportunity. Before, he was still wondering how he could do business with Lin for a long time. Now, wasn't it delivered to his doorstep? $4 or $5 was a very high price. Hammer knew that the people around him sometimes got the goods directly from the conch bar to the drug lords. They weren't responsible for sending the goods across the border, so the price was very low. Usually, they could do it for $2 or $3, and the bulk business that was sent across the border was only $3 or $4. The price that Lin offered was quite tempting. "Gunslinger, if you're interested, I can talk to the boss. Although I don't know if it can be as low as $4, it shouldn't be a problem at $5. And if Gunslinger has a large quantity and has his own way to ship it, I can help you apply to see if it can be lower," Hammer said. "Oh, you're not fooling me, are you?" Lin looked at Hammer with a little disbelief. "You're just a bar, a small retail store. How can you have so many goods? And you can do it at such a low price?" I won't hide it from Gunslinger. Actually, behind our boss is an international drug gang. If Gunslinger is really interested, I can bring you to meet the boss," Hammer said. Lin looked at Hammer with some vigilance. He looked him up and down, but in the end, he seemed to have made a decision. He gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, lead the way. Gunslinger, you won't lose out if you cooperate with us. Don't worry." Hammer was overjoyed. He hurriedly led Lin out of the bar's private room. "This way, it's in the basement." Lin nodded. Together with Hammer, they came to a staircase under a sign that said "Staff Passage, Guests Prohibited." Hammer pushed open the door and led Lin downstairs. The first floor of the basement was really the staff passage. Lin, he could see busy waiters bringing out plates of Western food and snacks. It seemed that the first floor of the basement was the kitchen. The second floor of the basement was a warehouse, where red wine and other things were stored. There were also waiters walking back and forth. Further down, the third floor of the basement was relatively empty. There was no one here. It seemed to be a waste room. There were some wine bottles, beverage bottles, and some food boxes. However, Chu-A-Z continued to lead Lin E downwards, all the way to the fifth floor. This place was completely different from the previous 4 floors. There was a metal door at the entrance to the 5th floor, and in front of the door stood 2 men in black, as if they were door gods. Both of them had cold and serious expressions. Their waists were bulging. It was obvious that they had guns on them. "What are you doing?" asked one of the door god. "I'm the waiter upstairs, Hammer. I have a big client who wants to see Brother Dauphin. Can you help me report it?" said Hammer. Door god A nodded. He scanned Lin E and said to Mun Shin, "You stay here and look after them. I'll go in and report to Brother Dauphin." "Okay." Mun Shin nodded. After door god A left, Hammer gave Lin E a reassuring look. "Don't worry, gunslinger. This time, you will definitely get a satisfactory price." "Then, I hope so." Lin E was obviously still a little disbelieving of what happened in front of him. He didn't believe that Hammer could get goods at such a low price. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Hammer didn't say much. When he went to the boss's office later, he would naturally see the boxes of wheat flour. When the goods were in front of him, he was not afraid that Lin E wouldn't believe him. After a while, door god A came out and said to Hammer, "Brother Dauphin is free now. You can go in, but you have to search them first." "No problem." Hammer gave Lin E a look and said, "Cooperate. This is a must." "Oh." Lin E nodded and agreed. Mun Shin came over and carefully searched Lin Yi's mind, but he didn't have any doubts about Lin Yi's inescapable net. He thought it was an ordinary small net. However, he frowned when he saw Lin Yi's box of silver needles. "What is this?" "It's for acupuncture." Lin E smiled. "Sometimes when I'm outside, my drug addiction acts up. I learned acupuncture from others. It can temporarily suppress the drug addiction." Mun Shin nodded, but he naturally didn't think that Lin E could use these silver needles as a weapon. He didn't doubt it and directly returned it to Lin E. "Okay, go in," Mun Shin said faintly. "Let's go, gunslinger." Hammer smiled and greeted Lin E. He walked into the 5th basement with Lin E. The 5th floor of the basement. Just the luxurious hallway alone was enough to make one's tongue drop. Lin Yi's expression, however, wasn't anything out of the ordinary. This was probably where the core members of Conch Bar worked. Normal people wouldn't be able to come here easily. Chapter 2308. He led Lin E all the way forward and finally came to the door of a room at the end of the corridor. Hammer said to Lin, "Gunslinger, it's here. Our bar boss, Brother Dauphin's office." Lin E frowned slightly and said, "Okay, Brother Dauphin, right? I'll remember it." Hammer smiled slightly and knocked on the door. Soon, Brother Dauphin's steady and strong voice came from inside. "Please come in." Hammer pushed the door open and let Lin E go first. He followed Lin E into Brother Dauphin's office. However, as soon as he entered the door, Hammer was shocked. A pistol was pointed at Lin Yi's forehead. The owner of the pistol was Brother Dauphin's bodyguard, called Two Deaf. "Brother Dauphin, Brother Deaf, what do you mean by this?" Hammer looked at Brother Dauphin, who was sitting behind the desk, and asked hesitantly. Lin E, on the other hand, had a shocked expression. He seemed to be at a loss. However, Lin E was secretly speculating in his heart. What does this Brother Dauphin mean? Was he testing him, or did he give himself away in some way that caused him to act like this? Before entering Brother Dauphin's office, when Hammer knocked on the door, Lin Yi's jade pendant began to release warning signals. This was also the reason why Lin E frowned. The warning signal wasn't strong, but it showed that there was danger inside. In fact, dodging Two Deaf's gun and killing him with a backhand was a piece of cake, but Lin E didn't do that. He wasn't sure if Dauphin Bro was testing him or just suspecting him. "Boss Foam, this doesn't seem to be the way to treat guests, right?" Lin He seemed to have just recovered from the shock. He looked shocked and angry, but his tone was a little uncertain. Hammer, what the hell is going on? You guys aren't trying to cheat me, are you? But I'm not afraid to tell you that I only have this much money on me, and I'm just an errand boy in my gang. If you want to extort me, then you've got the wrong idea. Gunslinger, calm down. Let me ask him first. Hammer quickly comforted Lin and looked at Big Brother Phone with a bitter face. Big Brother Phone, Gunslinger, is from an overseas gang. He's in charge of purchasing wheat flour. He's a big customer, big client. A playful smile appeared on Big Brother Fang's face. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin. He asked indifferently, "Tell me, who are you and what do you want to do here?" "What? Who am I? Doesn't Hammer know who I am?" Lin frowned and said angrily, "Besides, I'm not here for anything. It was Hammer who brought me here. Do you think I can come here without him? Don't beat around the bush. My patience is limited." Big Brother Fong snorted and interrupted Lin. He said indifferently, "Don't treat people as fools. Are you a member of an overseas gang? Are you here to buy drugs? What a coincidence. Do you think your luck is so good?" Big Brother Fong, a straightforward person, doesn't beat around the bush. "Forgive me for being blunt, but I don't understand what you mean. If you don't want to do business, then I won't force you. Even if business doesn't work out, there's still justice." "But what do you mean by this nonsense?" Lin said with some displeasure. "I came here to have fun. Hammer said that there's a cheap supply here, so I came to take a look. But you pointed a gun at me as soon as you came in. You don't welcome me, so you don't have to let me come. What a clever sophistry. But do you think I'll believe it?" Big Brother Fong looked at Lin mockingly and shook his head. "Forget it. Since you don't want to say it, Second Death, send him on his way. Since you're here, don't think about leaving." Click. When Lin heard the sound of a bullet being loaded, he knew that this Big Brother Phone wasn't trying to scare him. He really wanted to kill him. Although Lin didn't know what went wrong, he couldn't just sit and wait for death. He quickly stretched out his right hand and snatched the pistol from Second Death's hand. Then, he slammed the butt of the gun on Second Death's forehead. Second Death screamed and fell to the ground. Hammer was at a loss when he saw the change in front of him. "Are you in a hurry to make a move?" Big Brother Fang's mouth slightly curled up as he said sarcastically, "Could it be that your people want to kill me, and I can only sit and wait for death?" Lin said with the last hope, "I don't know how I offended you, but since you don't want to do business, then I have nothing to say. Let's go our separate ways. I'll have a trouble Big Brother Phone to send me away." Big Brother Phone listened to Lin Yi's words, but he laughed as if he was watching a clown's performance. He asked with interest, "Are you done?" "What do you mean?" Lin frowned. This Big Brother Phone seemed to be very sure that he wasn't a foreign gang member who came here to look for goods. "Are you wondering where you gave yourself away?" Big Brother Phone said faintly, "Actually, you did a good job from the beginning to the end. There were no flaws to speak of. Our security guards here also saw the scene of you sucking white flour. It can be said that your performance was impeccable. However, that's not your flaw. It's what you said." "What I said?" Lin asked. "What, you admit it?" Big Brother Phone sneered. "So what if I admit it? Don't think that just a few thugs with guns can scare me." Lin crushed the pistol in his hand into an iron ball and threw it on the ground with a bang. Big Brother Phone laughed again and activated his internal energy. Suddenly, the strength of a peak late phase mystic class was revealed. "You're a cultivator?" Lin was slightly surprised. Lin didn't see Big Brother Fang's strength before, because in Lin opinion, he was just a bar boss. He shouldn't be a master. Even the second boss of Red Conch was not a master. And the bald wolf who traded drugs was not a master either. As a result, Lin subconsciously thought that there weren't many masters in Red Conch. But what Lin didn't expect was that the bar boss here was actually a peak late phase mystic class master. Chapter 2309. Lin didn't show his strength at all. He used his hand to turn the gun in Second Death's hand into a metal ball. He only relied on the strength of his wrist. Therefore, according to Brother Doffing's deduction, Lin, you should have the strength of a golden class. I underestimated you guys. To be honest, Linny really didn't think that there would be a mystic class master in the conch bar. However, it was those sects and aristocratic families that created a misunderstanding for Linny. He thought that the leaders were all martial arts masters. Since the big boss was captured by Feng Tianlong, then his strength wasn't very high. He also knew that the second boss was captured by him. His strength wasn't high either. As for the Death Warrior, although he had some ability, in Lin Yi's eyes, it was just so. Therefore, Lin Yi walked into a misunderstanding and ignored the fact that the leader of a gang wasn't necessarily a cultivator. The hierarchy in a gang was different from those aristocratic families and sections. Their leader could be a masterful person or a wise and resourceful person. It was just like in the Fire Wolf gang, and Jiang Wen was a bastard. He only knew how to do bad things to earn money, but he could control a group of masters. This was the same logic. You finally admitted it? You aren't a merchant, right? Brother Doffing looked like he had a winning ticket in his hand. Tell me, why are you here? Who ordered you to do this? You can say it, but I want to know, how did you find out that I wasn't a merchant who came to buy drugs? Lin Yi was curious about this question, because Lin Yi recalled the entire process of him coming to Conch Bar. From the fishing to the ingestion of ecstasy and white flour, everything was very similar. There were no flaws at all. Also, Audie, who he traded with, was taken away by Feng Tianlong, and Bald Wolf, who was close to him, was captured as well. There was no evidence. Even if Dafeng Bro investigated, he wouldn't be able to find anything wrong with Audie. So Yang Ming was very confused. Actually, you made a mistake. It's not a big one, but it's not a small one either. Big Brother Feng didn't hide it, which satisfied Lin Yi's curiosity. Rue Leda Town is also one of the biggest strongholds of the Red Conches. It's even bigger than Qing Run City. How could you not find a supply there? What do you mean? Lin Yi frowned. In Ronaldo Town, you can go to any bar or nightclub, or even an inn or a restaurant. You can just say that you want wheat flour, and someone will sell it to you. Do you think you can't find a source? Dafeng Bro looked at him mockingly. That's a small town outside the borders that the three families don't care about, and it's completely controlled by the two gangs and three families. If you wanted to get wheat from there, just say the word, and someone would bring you to Red Kong's headquarters. Why come here? So that's how it is. Lin, he let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that the saying, even a wise man might make a mistake, was true. Lin, he never thought of this situation before. Indeed, as Brother Doffing said, with the situation in Rue Leda Town, buying wheat flour was just a matter of saying the word. Why bother coming here? Okay, I'm done. You can tell me where you came from, and I'll let you die a quick death, Brother Doffing said. Die? I never thought about it. Lin, he waved his hand and knocked Hammer unconscious. Although Lin, he didn't like the people of the Red Conches, it was Hammer who lured him here. Lin, he didn't want to kill him, so he only knocked him unconscious. You dare to make a move here? Brother Doffing looked at Lin in disbelief. Nonsense. If I didn't dare to make a move, I wouldn't have asked Hammer to bring me here. Lin, he looked at Brother Doffing like he was an idiot. Although you're smart and saw through my identity, I can't let you go just because you're smart. I hate people like you who seem smarter than me the most. Brother Doffing's eyes widened. He didn't understand why this kid was still so arrogant after he showed his strength. Was he not afraid of him? No, he was a master at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class. In the mortal world, he was someone who could do whatever he wanted. Actually, my goal was to get Shui to bring me here. Since I'm already here, it doesn't matter if you don't see through me or not. At most, it'll save me a lot of energy, and you'll willingly bring me to your boss. This way, I'll have to put in a bit of effort and force you to willingly bring me to your boss. The results are pretty much the same. Lin, he said with a shrug. Do you know what it means to be at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class? Dafeng Bro had never been looked down upon like this since his debut. Even the head of the common house, Shueixing, would respectfully call him Brother Dafeng. But Shueixing was a master at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class, just like him. A little, Linny said. You know, and you still dare to say that? You're a newborn calf, aren't you? Do you know that even the head of the common house, Shueixing, calls me Brother Dafeng when he sees me? Doffing Bro felt that he could kill Lin Yi in a second, but the feeling of being looked down upon by Lin Yi wasn't a good one. Before he killed Lin Yi, he had to let Lin Yi know how high up he was. "Oh, so you're brothers with that old thing Shueishing? You guys have a good relationship?" Lin Yi asked. "Of course. Don't change the subject." Doffing Bro glared at Lin. "I'm just telling you the difference between Mystic and Golden Class. Since you're brothers with Shueishing, then don't worry. You'll be with him soon, and I'm sure he'll be happy to see you go to him," Lin Yi said with a smile on his face, but his heart was filled with murderous intent. If this person was with Shueishing, then he was definitely up to no good. Armadillo's death was most likely related to him, and so in Lin Yi's mind, Doffing Bro was already a dead man. "Who are you?" Doffing Bro's eyes froze. Naturally, he understood what Lin Yi was hinting at. Shueishing was already dead, and this was something he knew. How did this young man know about the destruction of the common house you? Could it be related to him? "The enemy of your red conscience," Lin Yi said. Chapter 23:10. He jumped up from his office chair and threw a punch at Lin Yi. He did not care who Lin Yi was or what his purpose was. He had to die. Too many people had died under his fist. It was impossible for Brother Doffing to ask everyone's identity and purpose. Bang! There was a loud noise, followed by a blood-curdling scream of "ah." The person who screamed was naturally not Lin Yi, but Brother Doffing. At this moment, Brother Doffing's fist was about to hit Lin Yi's chest, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. Then his body inexplicably flew backward. It was as if the scene of him jumping out of the office chair was replayed, and he sat down on the office chair again. It was just that he fell with great force. With a plop, the powerful recoil blew up the operating lever of the office chair. The exploding operating lever directly burst Brother Doffing's butt. "Ouch!" Brother Doffing screamed again and knelt on the ground, tears coming out his eyes. Lin Yi was a little speechless. He thought to himself that Brother Doffing was really unlucky. He just wanted to kick him back so that he would cooperate with him. He did not expect the operating lever of the swivel chair to explode, bursting his butt. "You? What kind of expert are you?" Brother Doffing asked as he looked at Lin Yi in horror while covering his lower abdomen with one hand and his butt with the other. At this moment, even if he was an idiot, he understood that Lin Yi was stronger than him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to send him flying with a kick. However, he did not know how much stronger Lin Yi was than him. Lin Yi did not answer his question. Instead, he asked, "Where's the headquarters of the Red Conches? Just kill me. Don't even think about getting anything out of me." Brother Doffing knew that he could not shake Lin Yi's strength, so he did not resist. Even if his strength was one level higher, it was still high. Especially when he was injured, he was no match for Lin Yi. Betraying the Red Conches would become an extremely terrifying nightmare. Brother Doffing felt terrified just thinking about it. It was simply unimaginable. "Really?" Lin Yi's eyes turned cold. "I don't have a good impression of your Red Conches, so don't blame me for being cruel. I rarely use such cruel methods, but you guys are an exception." Lin Yi's words made Big Brother Doffing shudder. He knew that Lin Yi would probably torture him to get the information he wanted. However, when he thought of the consequences of betraying the Red Conch, Big Brother Doffing gritted his teeth and snorted. "Kill me if you want. If you want to get anything from me, don't bother. Oh, I hope you can still be so stubborn later. Don't regret it." Lin Yi did not say much. His right hand moved slightly, and a few silver needles slid into his hand. Then he casually raised his hand, and all the silver needles were inserted into Big Brother Doffing's body. Although Big Brother Doffing was a mystic stage master and had chi protection, he was injured now. Moreover, he was prepared to die, so he did not use any chi protection. In his opinion, Lin Yi's level was higher than his. Even if he used chi protection, Lin Yi could easily break his chi protection. Moreover, instead of using chi protection, it was better to not defend and let Lin Yi kill him. However, he did not expect that Lin Yi did not intend to kill him at all. If he had chi protection, then it would be very difficult for Lin Yi's silver needles to insert into his body. However, he did not use chi protection, which made it easy for Lin Yi. Although he did not know what Lin Yi wanted to do, it was nothing more than torture him. Big Brother Dafeng closed his mouth tightly and did not say a word. He wanted to let himself be busy there. However, in the next moment, he realized that something was wrong because what happened next made him want to die. Ouch! Big Brother Dafeng suddenly let out a shrill scream from his tightly clenched teeth. Then he rolled on the ground. He felt like there were countless ants biting his skin, and his hands could not move. He could not stop the itch. He could only roll back and forth on the ground to relieve the pain. The office table, chairs, vases, magazine shelves, and other things were all knocked over by Big Brother Dafeng's rolling body. This feeling made him want to die. What is this situation? Did Lin Yi poison me? Was there poison on the silver needles? Thinking of this, Big Brother Dafeng wanted to roll the silver needles off his body. However, he did succeed. The silver needles rolled down, but the pain on his body did not lessen at all. At this point, Big Brother Dafeng finally understood what it meant to not regret it. At this moment, he was living a life worse than death. He rolled back and forth on the ground, but it did not have much effect. He wailed and screamed in pain. "You're too noisy." Lin Yi frowned. With a wave of his hand, another silver needle flew out and inserted into Big Brother Dafeng's mute acupoint, making him unable to make a sound. Even though he was in pain, he could only make a hee-hee sound. Sealing acupoints was a technique that Lin Yi's master had taught him. He could use silver needles or fingers. However, this technique could bring great pain to the enemy. Lin Yi rarely used it. He would only try it on people who hated him. At this moment, Big Brother Dafeng's heart was filled with fear. Not to mention the physical pain, the psychological pain at this moment made him even more shocked. Not only was he extremely uncomfortable, but he could not make any sound. Who is this person in front of me? How can he have such a technique? He said that he was the enemy of the Red Conches, but the Red Conches did not have any enemies at all. On the surface, the Red Conches and the Firewolf gang were incompatible, but that was all on the surface. A small leader like Big Brother Dafeng knew the truth. The Red Conches and the Firewolf gang were actually of the same origin. They were both forces established by the same behind-the-scenes boss. Could he be from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Big Brother Dafeng could only think of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau as an enemy of the Red Conches. However, when did the Supernatural Investigation Bureau have such a ruthless person? Could it be that the gang's intelligence system was too weak? But no matter what, at least Big Brother Dafeng felt that death was better than life. He wanted Lin Yi to kill him. He wanted to end his own life, but he couldn't move his hands, and he couldn't even open his mouth to speak. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. He couldn't. He really wanted to die. Lin Yi said that he hoped he would not regret it, but at this moment, he really regretted it. It was so painful. He wanted to die. Chapter 23:11. How about it? Do you want to continue or cooperate with me? Answer whatever I ask. Lin Yi asked faintly. I'll answer. Let me go first, I beg you. Ah, it's too painful. The man in the center screamed in pain. Okay, but if you don't cooperate, then I can only give you something more ruthless. Lin Yi said as he raised his right hand again. A few silver needles shot out, and Big Brother Feng returned to normal. Phew! Big Brother Feng let out a long sigh. Lin Yi's method almost killed him. At this time, he felt indescribably relaxed from head to toe. He felt like he was hovering between life and death. When he wiped his forehead, it was already covered in sweat. The hellish torture made him tremble in fear, and he hated Lin Yi to the core. When he saw that Lin Yi didn't stop him from wiping his sweat after unsealing his acupuncture point, he immediately came up with a plan. He wanted to take advantage of the moment when Lin Yi let his guard down to commit suicide. As soon as this bold idea came out, Big Brother Feng immediately put it into action. He suddenly pulled out a delicate small pistol from his body and shot at his temple. Bang! The familiar gunshot didn't come, but there was a loud bang. It was Lin E stepping on Big Brother Fang's right hand. Big Brother Fang's right palm and the pistol in his hand were trampled into pieces by Lin E. It seems that you haven't had enough. How about it? Again? Lin E looked at Big Brother Fang coldly, raised his foot, and asked. Big Brother Fang looked at his palm that had turned into a pile of flesh and blood. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. The pain in his heart was far more intense than the pain in his hand. He was a master at the peak of the late phase of the Mystic Division. In theory, the speed at which he drew the gun was fast enough, but Lin E was still one step ahead of him. This made Big Brother Fang feel a deep sense of defeat. Lost, completely lost. Big Brother Fang sighed. The person in front of him wasn't someone he could fight or play tricks on. If he didn't want to suffer, he could only cooperate with Lin E. Otherwise, the pain might repeat itself. What do you want to know? I will cooperate with you, Big Brother Fang said. But after you get what you want to know, please kill me. Oh, Lin E was slightly stunned. This Big Brother Fang was really interesting. Others wanted to live after cooperating, but he wanted to die after cooperating. It was really magical. Even if I say this, the Red Conch won't let me go, so you can just kill me. Big Brother Fang saw Lin Yi's expression and knew what he was thinking, so he explained. Were you in charge of in the Red Conches? How many people are there in the Red Conch headquarters in Run City? Besides you, how many people are there? Lin E asked in one breath. You can see what I'm in charge of in the Red Conches. It's this bar. I'm in charge of receiving some merchants who come here to pick up goods. In fact, I'm a relatively big drug lord. Big Brother Fang said honestly. As for how many people there are in the Red Conches, it's hard to estimate. There are core members and peripheral members. As you can see, Hammer is a peripheral member. I haven't calculated this data. As for the others, although I'm considered a core figure in the Red Conches, I really don't know how many people there are. You really don't know? Lin E frowned. He looked straight at Big Brother Fang and asked, If you said something else, I would believe it. But do you believe that you don't know how many people there are? You are a person yourself, and a strong one at that. Why don't you spar with other people in the gang? Well, actually, the third boss of our Red Conches branch in Run City is also a person, Big Brother Fang said helplessly. If I reveal this, I will definitely be severely punished. But since I'm going to die either way, I might as well tell you. What strength? Lin E was slightly startled. He didn't expect the third boss of the Red Conches to be a person. He didn't know this before. Peak late phase Earth class, Big Brother Fang said. If you want to find trouble with him, I advise you to forget about it. Although your strength is higher than mine, it's probably early or mid-phase Earth class. It won't be too high. You're not a match for the third boss. The third boss is actually a peak late phase Earth class master. Lin E frowned. He didn't expect the third boss to be this strong. It seemed like the Red Conches had been hiding and didn't reveal their true strength. But thinking about it, the Red Conches and the Fire Wolf Gang were of the same lineage. It was reasonable for them to have a peak late phase Earth class master. What about the others? Lin E asked. There are two other Mystic class late phase peak like me. One is an Earth class early phase, and the third in charge is a Sky class. But he's not here. Since Doffing Bro had already chosen to say it, he wouldn't hold back anymore and said it all in one breath. Very well, take me to the headquarters of the Red Conches. Just say that I'm here to do business. But don't try to play any tricks, or else I'll make you feel as good as before. Lin E said, No, you should just kill me. If I don't die after I go, then it'll be troublesome. Big Brother Fang shook his head and rejected Lin Yi's suggestion. You promised me that you'd give me a quick death after I tell you all this. Lin E frowned. You might not die if you go with me. Are you that confident in the third boss that I'm not his match? He's a peak late phase Earth class master. Unless you're a Sky class master, you won't be his match. Big Brother Fang shook his head with a determined look. Isn't that better? Kill me, and you say that you're being coerced. Isn't it still up to you to say whatever you want? Lin E looked at Big Brother Fang strangely. At most, I'll just die. Can it be more painful than before? More painful? I don't know if it's painful or not, but the people who betrayed the Red Conches all ended up in a miserable state. They were all dragged to the captives to make drugs. Big Brother Fong shook his head. I've seen those traitors and captives. It's a life worse than death. Chapter 23:12. Of course it's true. Doffing Bro told him everything he knew, but he was surprised by Lin Yi's reaction. Why are you so excited? Have you seen the prisoners and traitors who make drugs? Lin Yi took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and asked, how did those prisoners come about? The people who go against Red Conches are some rival gangs, mercenary organizations, and people like you. Of course, you're so powerful. It's impossible for you to be captured. I'm just giving you an example. Doffing Bro said, you've seen those prisoners? Where are they? Why do you say they're better off dead? Lin Yi was excited. Pangolin. Maybe he wasn't dead. If Huaijuan hadn't seen his body back then he would have been captured by the Red Conches. Doffing Bro's words made it seem more likely, since they needed someone to make drugs for them. Those prisoners were originally in a secret base near the Golden Triangle, but I heard that they were attacked and moved away. I don't know where they are now. This is Red Conch's secret. I don't think even the third head of the Conches knows, Doffing Bro said. Then how do you know? Lin Yi frowned, as if he wanted to see if Doffing Bro was lying. I used to be in charge of these people, Doffing Bro said, but he was sent here later. It was considered a promotion, but he couldn't touch the process of making drugs. So that's the case. Then why do you say they're better off dead? Lin Yi was more concerned about this question. They're like a group of puppets who only know how to work. Big Brother Fong said, I don't know if they have thoughts because they don't know how to communicate. All they do is refine drugs. I'm afraid that if I betray Red Conch, I will become like that. That would be worse than death. So, you might as well just kill me. I don't want to become that kind of bio-human that is neither human nor ghost. Big Brother Fong said, I don't know if they have thoughts because they don't know how to communicate. All they do is refine drugs. I'm afraid that if I betray Red Conch, I will become like that. Bio-human. Lin Yi took a deep breath after listening to Brother Feng's words. Those captives and traitors were all transformed into bio-humans? You only know how to refine drugs and have no thoughts? This news made Lin Yi's heart ache again. If the pangolin was still alive, he must have been transformed into a bio-human by now. Then, could he still return to normal? However, Lin Yi knew that he couldn't let his emotions affect the important matters at this moment. Lin Yi took out his mobile phone from his pocket and took out a photo. Then, he enlarged it until there was only one person in the photo. He raised the photo in front of Big Brother Fong and asked, since you were in charge of the poison refining base, take a look. Is this person among those bio-humans? The photo in Lin Yi's hand was of the pangolin. He had shown it to Ziyu before, but Lin Yi left it out this time. This. Big Brother Fong looked at the photo on Lin Yi's phone and shook his head in confusion. You know that there were thousands of bio-humans in the poison refining base. How could I go and see every single one of them? I was only in charge of preventing enemies from invading this place. I didn't have the time to look at people. Lin Yi nodded. Big Brother Fong was right. With the situation at that time, he really couldn't pay attention to what those bio-humans looked like. Did you hear where the poison refining base went? Lin Yi asked. I really don't know. After I was transferred away, there was no need to ask about it. I'm doing well here, and I don't want to go back at all, Big Brother Fong said. Big Brother Fong was telling the truth. This place was filled with debauchery, and the poison refining base was boring. Who will want to go back? Take me to your third head in charge. Lin Yi said, when we get there, I'll give you a quick death. Or you can trust me and bet the treasure on me. I'll take you away after I kill the third head and the others, but you'll be my follower from now on. You'll be in charge of helping me find that poison refinery. Hiss! Big Brother Fong was shocked after hearing Lin Yi's words. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say that. Chapter 23:13. Sun Jingyi knew that she was out to do something. If there was no special situation, she wouldn't call casually. Lin Yi, I was eating in the hotel's cafeteria when I saw a couple of gangsters put something in my drink. They were sitting in front of me, and they were up to no good. I didn't dare stay there, and went to the washroom before finishing my meal, Jingyi said urgently. What? Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect the punks here to be so rampant. They actually dared to put something in Sun Jingyi in the hotel restaurant. What was their purpose? Were they coveting Sun Jingyi's beauty? They wanted to drug her or kidnap her. Wait for me. I'll go back immediately. Don't come out of the bathroom. Lin Yi said immediately. Okay. What are you doing? Why did you come in? On the other side of the phone, Sun Jingyi's shocked and angry voice suddenly came. Then, the phone seemed to be taken away by someone. There was no more movement. Jingyi. Lin Yi was shocked, and the other party's arrogance was beyond Lin Yi's expectation. They failed to drug her, and they actually ran to the bathroom to snatch her. What's wrong? What happened? Brother Dafeng asked quickly after hearing Lin Yi's words. My friend was in the hotel. She was drugged. She ran to the bathroom, and those punks also rushed in. Lin Yi said briefly. Oh, what hotel? Brother Dafeng asked. What hotel? Lin Yi frowned. He really didn't remember it. He just asked the taxi driver to recommend a luxurious large hotel. Lin Yi only remembered the address, but he didn't remember the name. It's at Yuluo Road 1. What hotel is it? It's on the way. We're going there too. Brother Dafeng said with a bitter smile. It's the Fire Wolf Hotel, one of the largest luxury hotels in the city. It's also the headquarters of the Red Conch in Qing Run City. Fire Wolf Hotel? Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect the hotel to have such a name. He subconsciously asked, Is this the property of the Fire Wolf Gang? You know about the Fire Wolf Gang? Big Brother Feng was also surprised. I know. Aren't you and the Fire Wolf Gang from the same family? Lin Yi said, but you actually set up your headquarters together. Those who are able to come into contact with the third head above me usually know this secret. Big Brother Feng said, if your female companion lives in the Fire Wolf Hotel, it's not surprising that she was taken away. Their target is a foreign woman who lives alone in the Fire Wolf Hotel. Your female companion must be very beautiful, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have acted so impatiently. Why? You know about it? Lin Yi could tell from Dafeng's tone that he knew about Sun Jingyi's kidnapping. It's still related to the poison refining base. Big Brother Feng smiled bitterly. The poison refining base is located in a remote area and is closed all year round. Although the people working there are all cyborgs, the management is all normal people, such as me. There are no erotic places there. If there's a physiological need, they will naturally capture some girls. However, there are often girls who can't take it and commit suicide, so every once in a while, they will replenish a batch of girls. You mean they capture my female companion to send her to the poison refining base? Lin Yi frowned, and his face was a little gloomy. However, you don't have to worry. There won't be any danger for the time being. This is because we need to capture at least 10 people at a time. A martial master will come and take them away. Right now, your female companion must be locked in a room in the hotel. Brother Feng explained. Those hooligans won't harm her. After listening to Big Brother Feng's words, Lin Yi was relieved and asked, No, there are high-level leaders there. Why would they let hooligans take the lead? Wouldn't it be disgusting to send her there after they are tired of playing with her? When Big Brother Feng said this, he saw that Lin Yi's face didn't look good. He quickly said, Of course, I'm not talking about your female companion. They are blind. How dare they capture the people around you? It's nothing. Let's go together. Lin Yi nodded. Since Sun Jingyi was fine for the time being, he naturally breathed a sigh of relief. However, he was thinking about something in his heart. An idea flashed through Lin Yi's mind just now. It was to let Sun Jingyi beat them at their own game and pretend to be captured. Then, when she was escorted to the poison refining base, Lin Yi would take the opportunity to follow her and destroy the poison refining base in one fell swoop. However, this idea was extinguished by Lin Yi as soon as it appeared. It was too dangerous. Let's not talk about the strength of the martial artist that Big Brother Feng mentioned. Lin Yi didn't have the ability to fight against him. Even if Lin Yi could fight against him, it was too dangerous to let Sun Jingyi wait here until there were 10 people. Sun Jingyi wasn't a cultivator. She didn't have the strength. If something happened to her, It would be too late for Lin E to regret it. The matter of the poison refining base wasn't urgent. If the pangolin wasn't dead, then it was most likely transformed into a biohuman. Lin E didn't have much of an impact whether he went early or late. It was better to wait until he had the strength to go. How about this? I'll go in alone in a while and make a scene at the Firewolf Hotel. You wait for me at the door. If I can't see the third head, you can help me introduce him. Lenny thought about it and said to Big Brother Fong. Big Brother Fong knew that Lin he wanted to use the kidnapping of his female companion to vent his anger. This way, the third head and the others wouldn't think that Lin he was deliberately dealing with them. Instead, they would think that Lin he was standing up for Sun Jingyi. At that time, even if Lin he made a scene, the third head would not run away. This way, Big Brother Fong wouldn't have to come forward. He was naturally happy. However, what he thought was, what if Lin he didn't see the third head after he made a scene? Wouldn't those people know Lin he if he were to introduce them to him? Don't worry, I will disguise myself. Lin he said faintly. If it doesn't work, I will change my face and go in with you. That's fine. Big Brother Fong breathed a sigh of relief and secretly rejoiced. Do you have a car? Lin he didn't give Big Brother Fong time to rejoice, but asked. Yes. Big Brother Fong and Lin he walked out of the office side by side. Before leaving the office, Big Brother Fong gave Second Def and Hammer anesthetics. They probably wouldn't wake up for a day. At this moment, Lin E and Big Brother Fong were like friends who had just finished a business deal. They went from the basement to the parking lot of the bar without attracting any suspicion. Chapter 23:14. Since Big Brother Dafeng decided to follow Lin E, he naturally called him boss. Just call me Ying. Lin, he said his previous code name. It was a code name he used when he was on a mission with Pangolin. Since it was revenge for Pangolin, Lin E naturally used this code name again. Then I will call you Brother Ying from now on. Big Brother Dafeng said. You can call me Dafeng from now on. Lin E responded faintly. He wondered if the third elder knew the location of the poison refining base. The car quickly arrived near the Firewolf Hotel. Lin he didn't let Dafeng drive the car to the door. Instead, he parked it in a remote alley next to it. He was also afraid that the people at the Firewolf Hotel would recognize his car. Before getting out of the car, Lin he poked a few spots on Dafeng's body and said, I won't unseal your acupoints. You can't use your hands and legs for 10 hours. Of course, you can use your true energy to forcefully open the acupoints, but you have to bear the consequences. Brother Ying, don't worry. In fact, even if you don't poke my acupoints, I won't run away. I will follow you in the future. Dafeng saw that Lin he had the determination to destroy the Red Conches, so before Lin he failed, he wouldn't do anything behind Lin Yi's back. Of course, this was also because he had no other choice. It was impossible for him to sincerely surrender to Lin Yi now. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say anything. He strode to the Fire Wolf Hotel. Boom! Voila! Lin Yi didn't push the door in, but he kicked it in. Outside the hotel, a luxurious crystal revolving door was directly kicked away by Lin Yi. It directly hit a security guard sitting at the front desk and smashed him into a meat patty. The security guard didn't even make a sound before he died. Although this security guard was only a small character, the security guards here were 100% members of the Red Conches or the Firewolf gang. Otherwise, they wouldn't just watch a gangster take away a single female guest. Therefore, Lin he didn't sympathize with him at all. This sudden turn of events caused the waiters in the hotel to scream in horror. Someone actually dared to come to the Firewolf Hotel to make a scene. One had to know which of the local small gangs did not know the background of the Firewolf Hotel. However, there were also some brave waiters who pressed the emergency pager. Suddenly, the hotel lobby was filled with a loud ringing sound. Of course, this was the result of Lin he not being able to stop it. If Lin he wanted to stop it, these waiters would have already fallen to the ground. How would he have the time to press the beeper? A group of security guards rushed down from the hotel security room and surrounded Lin E, who was standing leisurely in the lobby. Kid, who are you? You dare to come to our Firewolf Hotel and cause trouble? One of them, who was wearing a different uniform and was obviously the security captain, raised his baton and pointed at Lin Yi. "You guys are the security guards of this hotel?" Lin Yi looked at the security captain in front of him indifferently. Not simple, a security captain actually had the strength of the middle phase of the golden class. It seemed that this Firewolf Hotel was really a den of thieves. Security? You can think of it that way, but in front of you we are thugs. The security captain looked at Lin Yi with a cold smile. "We only protect the guests of the hotel. For people like you who want to make trouble, they usually come in standing and go out lying down." "Protect the guests?" Lin Yi looked at the security captain mockingly. If he didn't say this, Lin Yi would not want to kill him, but this security captain actually said that he was protecting the guests. Knowing that Sun Jingyi was temporarily not in danger, Lin Yi laughed instead of getting angry. "If that's the case, my girlfriend called me from the hotel and said that some hooligans spiked her drink. My girlfriend hid in the washroom, and they rushed in to take her away. Don't tell me that you don't know, or that it was your people who did it." A trace of panic flashed in the security captain's eyes. Of course he knew about this, but he didn't think that Sun Jingyi actually had a companion here, and he rushed over so quickly. It seemed like he was a practitioner. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to kick the revolving door away. Even if he wasn't the early phase of the golden class, he was at least half a step into the golden class, which was considered to be a practitioner. "Did you misunderstand? Your girlfriend was caught here? How is that possible? This is a legal hotel, not to mention hooligans. They can't even enter the door. Just like you, we found you the moment you entered the door." The security captain naturally wouldn't admit that they had caught Sun Jingyi. "Since you don't admit it, then you can all go to hell." Lin Yi was already very angry with this Firewolf Hotel. He snorted coldly and moved his body. The group of security guards who surrounded Lin Yi and the security captain who was arrogant just now all fell to the ground. No one knew whether they were dead or alive. The waiters thought that the matter would be solved when the security guards came. Usually, if there were people who came to make trouble, the security team would come, and those troublemakers would be carried out. But now, the situation seemed to be reversed. The waiters suddenly let out a burst of screams, and then like a swarm of bees, they fled in all directions. Soon, they escaped to the upper floor of the hotel and disappeared without a trace. "You sure left fast." Lin Yi smiled coldly as he used the fifth form of Mu Linsin's 8 trigrams palm. His 2 palms turned into 10 palms, hitting the bar counter, the wall paintings, the sofa, the chandelier, the bonsai, and all sorts of other objects in the hotel, turning the entire lobby into rubble. "Is there anyone who can talk to me? The owner of this place, get out here." After Lin Yi smashed everything, he shouted loudly. His voice didn't seem loud, but it was condensed with a majestic, pure energy, and the entire hotel building was shaken. If Lin Yi wasn't afraid of hurting Sun Jingyi, he would have directly destroyed the hotel like how he dealt with Zhao Qibing. In the surveillance room of Firewolf Hotel, the third head looked at the surveillance video of the hotel lobby with a hidden face. He couldn't believe it. What kind of move is this? Is it a martial art? How can he use 10 palms at once? In the surveillance room, he couldn't feel the power of Lin Yi's martial art, so the third head couldn't see what strength Lin Yi had. "I'm not sure, but it shouldn't be a martial art. I've never heard of such a martial art. It should be a fast movement technique, a kind of external martial art." The Earth class master next to the third head said after thinking for a while. And the third head nodded after hearing the words of the Earth class master. As long as it wasn't a martial art, it was fine. This person couldn't use martial arts, so he shouldn't be a master. "Zhang Yilong, Zhao Erhu, go down and catch this person for me." Chapter 23:15. Although he didn't know where Lin Yi came from, the Red Conches were never afraid of trouble. No matter who Lin Yi was, he wouldn't be able to leave this place alive. Yes, Zhang Yilong and Zhao Eru were mystic late phase peak, the same as Dauphin. Of course, the third elder and the early stage Earth class master wouldn't make a move so easily. He was the third elder of the Red Conches, and he had the intention to make this early stage Earth class master the fourth elder. Both of them were boss-level characters, and they weren't normal fighters. Zhang Yilong and Zhao Eru came downstairs, and without saying a word, they attacked Lin Yi from the left and right. As fighters, they naturally had the awareness of fighters. They didn't come down to bicker with Lin Yi, but to take down Lin Yi and send him to the third head. Looks like the boss here is a coward. He doesn't dare to admit to his actions. Lin Yi's two seemingly casual slaps landed directly on Zhang Yilong and Zhao Eru's faces. These two mystic late-phase peak didn't even know how they died. Their heads were sent flying by Lin Yi. Mystic late-phase peak was nothing more than an ant in Lin Yi's eyes, and he could kill them with one move. Lin Yi was truly enraged. He didn't want to waste any more time talking to them. The fiercer he was, the more powerful the person behind them would appear. The third head's face changed in the surveillance room. He didn't expect that his two mystic late-phase peak fighters would be slapped to death by Lin Yi, as if they were flies. Fourth, what do you think? Since he wanted to train him to be the fourth head, the third head naturally called him fourth. I underestimated him. Old C's face was ugly as well. He didn't think that in the blink of an eye, two mystic late-phase peak cultivators would be killed by Lin Yi. Although he could kill them as well, he was an Earth class, which meant that Lin Yi was at least an Earth class. Let's go down and meet him. Perhaps we'll have to return him to him. It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. We don't have any enmity with him. It's better to take a step back, the third boss said with a wry smile. Just like that, the fourth leader was taken aback. I'm afraid this person came from the hidden plane or the ancient plane. Although we're not afraid, there's no benefit in fighting him to the death. Third boss said, people like us are like this. How can we not wet our shoes if we always stand by the river? I made a mistake this time. Sigh. The fourth leader smiled bitterly and stood up helplessly. Then, he walked out and quickly ordered one of his subordinates to take the woman away. Then, he and the third leader hurriedly took the elevator downstairs. I'm the owner of this hotel. Brother, I think you must have misunderstood something. Our hotel would never do something like kidnapping your girlfriend. I'm afraid it was some gangsters who colluded with other security guards to do such a thing. I'm sorry, but I'll definitely investigate and give you an explanation. The third boss's words were very tactful, and no one could find fault with it. The security guards were already dead, so there was no way they could testify. It was just right to put the blame on them. Third boss? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. This person had the strength of an Earth-class late-phase peak. He should be the third boss that Dauphin was talking about, and the one beside him should be the remaining Earth-class early-phase master. I'm an orphan. I have no brothers. Lin Yi frowned and pointed at Zhang Yilong and Zhao Eru. What are those two doing? Them? I don't know them. The third boss looked at Zhang Yilong and Zhao Eru's corpses blankly. Look at those two. They're not our hotel security guards. They're probably friends of those security guards. Or perhaps they're in cahoots with those gangsters. Those gangsters are really strong. They have two mystic late-phase peak masters as friends. Lin Yi obviously didn't believe the third boss's words. The third leader let out a dry laugh as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He had already taken a stance and admitted defeat. Yet, this person before him was still so overbearing. Could it be that he really wanted to fight to the death? At this time, the third boss's men came down from the elevator and brought Sun Jingyi to the third boss. Boss, I found out that it was a group of gangsters who kidnapped Sun Jingyi. I've already rescued her. You don't have any strength at all. To be able to rescue my girlfriend from a group of gangsters with golden mid and mystic late-phase peak strength. You really are a weirdo. Lin Yi snorted coldly. Brother, I've already found her for you. No matter what the misunderstanding is, let's just forget about it. The third boss said faintly, I don't know your strength, but I'm afraid that if we really fought, you wouldn't have it easy. Is that so? Lin Yi saw that Sun Jingyi was safe and sound. Naturally, he wouldn't go easy on her. As soon as the words left his mouth, he moved towards the fourth boss who was beside the third boss. Frenzy Fire, 8 trigrams palm, 5th form. This was the first time Lin Yi had used the third form of the Frenzy Fire, 8 trigrams palm. But even so, the power was still shocking. The third form of the Frenzy Fire, 8 trigrams palm was equivalent to the sixth form of the Frenzy Fire Fist. This situation made Lin Yi extremely happy. The fourth boss was only at the early phase of the Earth class. Lin Yi didn't want to reveal all of his trump cards, so he only used the third form. But even the third form, under Lin Yi's modified form, had the power of the seventh form of a normal martial technique. Boom dash, Lin Yi's palm landed on the fourth boss chest. The fourth boss only grunted before his body flew out like a kite with a broken string. He spat out a mouthful of blood and landed on the ruins of the bar that Lin Yi had smashed before, never to get up again. So powerful. Lin Yi secretly clicked his tongue. He didn't expect the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm to have such power. However, in Lin Yi's heart, he was even more afraid of Taggin Long was only at the early phase of the Earth class, but his 5 elements 8 trigrams palm already had the power of the fifth form of a normal martial technique. Then, wouldn't the fifth form have the power of the 25th form of a normal martial technique? Even if Taggin Dragon couldn't be like him, who didn't have a universal martial skill and could master any martial skill, even if he couldn't master it, the fifth move would be equivalent to the 20th move. How terrifying! Lin Yi couldn't imagine what kind of terrifying existence Taggin Long would become when he grew up. Chapter 23:16. But Tagangan had come at that crucial moment, and if Lin Yi had stayed even a second longer, Tagangan would have made him stay Psi power. In the end, it was all about power. Not being able to kill Taggin Dragon was still a hidden danger. He hoped that he would be crippled and unable to recover. Earth-class mid-stage, but able to use the seventh form. The third head's eyes flashed with doubt. How is that possible? Stop pretending. You guys planned this, didn't you? Don't tell me that these security guards had nothing to do with you. I hate people like you who think you're smart. Lin Yi said lightly. Kid, you decided to take revenge? The third head's face darkened, and his aura grew stronger. From the initial calm, it was now filled with true energy. His peak late-stage Earth-class strength was on full display. You may be able to use the seventh form, but you're still too weak for me. I'm a peak late-stage Earth-class, and I can use the 10th form. You'll die if you fight me. Tell me where you're from. I don't care what kind of background you have. You have to give us an explanation for what happened today. Explanation? Who do you think you are? Lin Yi smiled coldly. Even if you're from an ancient sect, I won't let this go. The third head said coldly. Ancient sect? Lin Yi curled his lips. The third head paused. Looking at Lin Yi's expression, it seemed like he didn't care about ancient sections. His heart sank. He suddenly thought of a possibility, a terrifying possibility. His voice trembled. Could it be? You're from that place? That place? What place? Lin Yi paused. Phew! Seeing that Lin Yi's confused expression didn't seem to be fake, the third head breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he wasn't from that place, everything was fine. The Fire Wolf Gang and Red Conches might not be afraid of that place, but he was just the third head of a small branch. There was no way he could go against them. Lin Yi frowned and memorized these 4 words. That place? What kind of place was that? It seemed to be very strong. It seemed to be even more powerful than the ancient sects. You don't have to try to get information out of me. I don't belong to any sect, Lin Yi said coolly. No sect. A cold light flashed in the third head's eyes. Good, very good. You don't belong to any sect or sect. Since you don't want to talk, then stay here and pay for the deaths of my brothers. You finally admit that these are your people? Lin Yi looked at the third elder with a faint smile. I'm about to die, so what if I admit it? The third elder already had the intention to kill Lin Yi. Since Lin Yi didn't say where he came from, and the surveillance video also recorded this scene, even if someone came looking for him, he could use the surveillance video to push the blame away. Even if Lin Yi really came from that place, if Lin Yi didn't admit it himself, then he would have died in vain. Who told him not to say it? Since you admitted it, then I'll admit it too. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Third elder of the Red Conches, I originally came to find trouble with you. If you didn't capture my girlfriend, I wouldn't know how to lure you out. But since you came here to die, you can't blame others. You know who I am?" The third elder frowned slightly. He realized that he seemed to have made a mistake. From the beginning to the end, he thought that he came to stand up for Sun Jingyi, but now it seemed that wasn't the case. He already knew his identity and stated that he was coming for him. "Naturally," He said faintly, "it's the famous red conch. You stole my car, so I naturally came to find you." "Stole your car? You're from the Supernatural Investigation Department?" The third elder was shocked and asked subconsciously. If it was a normal car, it naturally wouldn't catch the third elder's attention. However, Lin Yi's Grand Cherokee had the license plate of the Supernatural Investigation Department. It was convenient for them to cover for the drugs, so the third elder naturally paid attention. "No, but I was the one who captured your second elder," he said lightly. "And that death warrior, I killed him as well. And your partner, the secular house I also killed him. Who are you?" The third elder was getting more and more shocked. So this person in front of him was the archenemy of the red conches? But after connecting all these things, he suddenly thought of someone. You're Lenny? You know me?" Lenny was surprised. He didn't expect the third elder to know his name. "It really is you." The third elder had a look of realization on his face. "Fighting an enemy above your level. Like I said, other than the people from that place, who else would have the ability to do this? So it's you, the legendary Lin Yi. Since you know me, then it's easy. If you don't want to too painfully, then tell me a few things. Maybe I can let you go." Lin Yi said lightly. "You? Let me go?" The third elder laughed. "You're an Earth class mid-phase, and you're talking to me like this? Earth class mid-phase can kill you. You could try if you don't believe me." Lin Yi said nonchalantly. The third elder was an Earth class late phase peak, but the amount of pure chi he had was much weaker than the fifth protector. The current Lin Yi could even fight against the fifth protector back then, let alone the third elder. According to the theory of the fiery 8 trigram palm, Lin Yi's third form was equivalent to the sixth form, fiery fist. The fifth form was equivalent to the 10th form, which was the 11th form. It had the same effect as the fiery god bullet. Naturally, it would be able to suppress the fifth protector's 10th form. Of course, if he were to fight head-on, Lin Yi would probably be heavily injured. This was his last resort. If it wasn't necessary, Lin Yi didn't want to fight head-on with the third elder. Even if he killed the third elder, Lin Yi wouldn't feel good. And the most important point was that after getting rid of the third head, he couldn't ask anything he wanted to ask. "Lenny, I don't think that we, the red conches, have offended you. The common house you did, and I have nothing to say when they were annihilated. The second elder and the death warrior went to find you, and I have nothing to say. But you came to the red conches headquarters for no reason at all. Do you really think that we're pushovers?" The third elder laughed coldly and said angrily, "You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.